Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Nautical. Dead Warrior System, Batch Manufacturing for Emperor's Admiral. Chapter 1. Ambiguous Justice. Under the plaque with black characters on a white background, Kizaru Admiral is sitting on the seat with one leg resting comfortably, cutting his nails leisurely. One of his subordinates, Rear Admiral, was holding a document book and reporting to him the recent news about the New World for Emperors. There is still friction between Kaido of the Beasts and the red-haired Shanks from time to time. The captain of the 4th Division of the Whitebeard Pirates had a fight with a pirate who offered a reward of 500 million a few days ago, and he snatched a devil fruit. I'm not sure about his specific ability at the moment. Rear Admiral conducted the report meticulously. Hearing this, Kizaru said slowly, I got the devil fruit again. I have to find out what kind of fruit it is. Yes. Rear Admiral made a few serious strokes in the notebook and was about to continue. At this time, there was a knock on the door in the voice of Momoshige Gion. After the door opened, Momoshige Gion just entered the door. Before Kizaru asked, he said, Mr. Pelusolino, there is an 8-year-old boy who claims to be your younger brother. My brother. Kizaru looked stunned. The Rear Admiral standing next to him looked at Momoshige at the door, and felt that this was a bit unbelievable. Kizaru Admiral, 56, has an 8-year-old younger brother. That's right, he said it was your younger brother, and he said he had something important to see you for. Momoshige had a slightly weird expression on his face, because the kid looked so convincing, he was really curious if it was true, so he brought it here. At this moment, a small body came in from behind the door, put one hand on Momoshige's round thigh, poked his head out and waved to Kizaru with a smile. Hi, bro. Porcelino. When Kizaru saw this, he suddenly felt bad, so he stood up. It's really his biological brother who is here. Rear Admiral noticed that the little guy who came in put his hands on his enviable long white and tender legs, and the corner of his mouth twitched. Then Kizaru Admiral's reaction of standing up suddenly made him stunned. Dude, what the hell is Kizaru Admiral's reaction? It cannot be. He is really your brother. Seeing this, Momoshige glanced at Kizaru's face, then looked down at the cute little guy next to his legs, and said in amazement. Yes, he is my own brother, Borsalino. With a question mark on Kizaru's forehead, he immediately introduced to Momoshige, Rear Admiral. I was very surprised. How did an 8-year-old child come to the Grand Line from North Blue? It was too dangerous. Brother, my name is not that, it's Sha-en. Sha-en nodded to her, expressing disgust at Kizaru's address. Okay. How did Sha-en come here from North Blue? Do you know it's dangerous? If something happens to you, what will I do with my family? Kizaru stepped forward helplessly, slipped it away, and squeezed Sha-en's baby fat face by the way. It's a long story, isn't it all right? Sha-en was in pain, and hurriedly put aside Kizaru's hand, took out a big strawberry from her pocket and gnawed on it, without seeming to elaborate at all. My father has always had a son, and he loves you so much. I don't want you to follow me because I'm afraid it will be too dangerous. How could he let you go out like this? Kizaru asked with a headache as he thought about his old father's verbal refusal of his young son to join the army. Of course he ran away secretly. I left him a note. Sha-en tactfully extended her thumb and said with a smile. You kid, you've been very smart and clever ever since you can remember. Kizaru suddenly felt even more helpless, and then asked, Tell me, it's such a long journey, don't think I came here on purpose. It's true. Sha-en smiled sheepishly, then glanced at Momoshige and Rear Admiral. It's a serious matter. Shouldn't the irrelevant personnel leave? Momoshige and Rear Admiral, who were listening to the conversation between the two brothers, were very surprised and felt that this was the case. As a result, he turned around and was accused by Sha-en of being an irrelevant person. He cursed in his heart, but the good guy even arranged it directly. However, this was Kizaru Admiral's family matter, so the Rear Admiral said goodbye very conspicuously and turned around to leave. But Momoshige folded his arms and remained unmoved. He stood there and said with a smile, Sha-en, you said I brought you here because of something important, and now you want to drive me away. She doesn't do this, she's very mysterious, and looking at Sha-en's expression, it's definitely not a family matter. Kizaru also smiled, put Sha-en on the seat, and then said, Gion is a trustworthy vice admiral. Don't be so secretive. What important thing do you want to tell me? Sha-en didn't bother with the presence of multiple Momoshiki, so she started to say, okay, let me tell you. In fact, I ate the blood shadow devil fruit and gained a very powerful ability. Whoever's blood can be used to recreate the person's shadow, the shadow person can have 100% of the object's strength. This ability is incredible. You actually ate the devil fruit. Use your blood to recreate the shadow man. Blood shadow seems to have never heard of such an ability. Kizaru and Momoshiki were surprised and looked at each other with some confusion. It's not strange to eat devil fruit, but the two of them hold high positions in the Marine Corps and have seen most of the devil fruit illustrations, so they understand it. Using blood to create shadows, and also possessing all the strength of the blood party, how pervert. You should have heard about it a long time ago. Have you never heard of it? The red fruit looks weird. I took a bite when I was hungry. It tasted terrible, and then I discovered my abilities. Sha-en looked like she was reminiscing and made some nonsense about the experience of eating the fruit. Weird, unpalatable, and capable, isn't this what devil fruit is all about? After hearing this, Kizaru was convinced and said, it seems that you are lucky enough to eat devil fruit. It's not surprising that you have never heard of abilities. After all, there are all kinds of abilities in the world. Brother Sha-en, it would be incredible if you really have such abilities. Momoshiki's eyes lit up, and he gradually became a little excited. Use blood to recreate the shadow of 100% strength. Thinking of the terrifying aspect of this ability, the mentality of Kizaru and the two people suddenly changed, and their eyes became complicated. Brother, show it to me quickly. Kizaru couldn't wait to see what Sha-en was capable of. It would be different if the scope and limits of its capabilities could be determined. Momoshiki also looked forward to it. But at this time, Sha-en, who was satisfied with the reaction of the two people, shrugged her shoulders. There is no blood, my own blood is not good, I can only use other people's blood. What a big deal, come on. Kizaru said it was a minor problem, turned around and took out a teacup, and put 2 drops of blood into it from his fingertips. Really 2 drops of blood? Sha-en looked at the 2 touches of red at the bottom of the cup, looked at her brother Kizaru with disdain, and said, how can you create a shadow like this? It requires 400 cc. What? That's too much. Kizaru looked at the healed wound on his fingertip and said in surprise. 400 cc is not too small, it must be the standard of a blood bag. Of course, if you have too little blood, how can you reproduce the shadow of 100% strength, bro? Keep playing. After changing hands, Sha-en poured out the water from the big teapot on the guest table, put it in front of Kizaru, and watched expectantly. Just a little blood. Kizaru looked at Sha-en speechlessly, and was about to bleed. Let's use mine, let's see if you can copy mine with your ability. Looking at the ink marks of the 2 brothers, Momoshiki was speechless for a while, and after thinking about it, he took the initiative to move forward. Although there is a lot of blood at one time, she is willing to try only a small amount of blood. No, I'll come. Kizaru subconsciously wanted to stop it. As a result, before the words finished, Momoshiki pulled out the long sword at his waist neatly, and a flash of sword light flashed, cutting a wound on his hand. The blood suddenly gurgled into the container. Kizaru was amazed by Momoshiki's decisiveness and initiative, he let it go. Sha-en watched the blood on her hand continuously flow into the jug, her eyes were filled with greed. Although it is not the Admiral blood of brother Kizaru, it is also a backup Admiral. It can complete the system tasks and get a powerful blood shadow. Seeing more and more blood in the jug, Sha-en became more and more excited. In fact, what kind of devil fruit is this ability? It is the function of the system. And Sha-en is actually a time traveler. A younger brother who became Marine Admiral Kizaru through time travel, but he is a weak chicken without the slightest talent for a strong man. Time travel becomes useless. No, Sha-en, who is a traverser, has activated the Death Warrior system. With blood, you can create a blood shadow warrior with 100% strength of the blood source. Of course, Sha-en has just obtained the system, which has powerful functions but also has disadvantages. For example, there can only be one dead warrior now, and the dead warrior will be temporarily bound for 1 month and cannot be replaced by other blood shadows. The important thing is that there is a system task in Sha-en's Death Warrior system that is currently being released. Successfully create a Vice Admiral level or Captain level dead warrior, and the second dead warrior can be unlocked. Vice Admiral level, Captain level. To get enough blood from them to shape, the comprehensive difficulty is too high. At that time, Sha-En was in North Blue, in a corner at the foot of the mountain. There was no way. If he wanted to improve, he had to complete the tasks of the system. Therefore, if you want to control your destiny in One Piece world and become stronger, it is a good choice to rely on a big tree, so Sha-En simply came to seek refuge with Kizaru, Marine Admiral's brother. He is his own younger brother, and with such ability, he cannot refuse his offer of refuge. So Sha-En, who made up her mind, sneaked out and trekked across mountains and rivers to naval headquarters, where she saw this scene. In order not to be suspected, the Blood Shadow Fruit is just a name made up by Sha-En, but its possible power is real, and it is infinitely stronger than the real fruit's power. As expected, even Momoshiki didn't even think about it after learning about it, so he cut his hands and let blood to test. Seeing more and more blood in the jug, Sha-En became more and more excited. The first task is done. About there. It didn't take long to receive more than 400 cc of blood. Momoshiki pinched the wound and stopped the bleeding immediately. Little brother, I have had a lot of bloodletting, don't let me down. After the bloodletting, Momoshiki's face did not change, and he said to Sha-En expectantly. Sha-En didn't ink any ink, and mobilized the system in front of the two of them without saying a word. Create dead soldiers. Single quote. Pretending to cover the mouth of the pot with the palm of his hand, he gave instructions to the system in his heart. A light flashed. After Sha-En's hand was taken away, the blood in the container protruded and, stand up, like a living thing. Seeing this scene, Kizaru made an O shape with his mouth and said, amazing. During this process, the blood surges and changes, the volume expands, and the body begins to be shaped. Gradually changing unevenness, the blood-colored figure with an attractive S-shaped curve stood beside Sha-En. It has no appearance, its 7 orifices are deep black, its whole body is bloody purple, and its outline is exactly the same as Momoshiki. This is the Vice Admiral made with Momoshiki's blood, Blood Shadow Death. It's actually real. Even the breath is the same as mine. Momoshiki witnessed the birth of the shadow all the way, and was really stunned at the moment, and said dumbfounded. The bloody shadow can't tell what it looks like, but its figure is the same as itself, and the most important thing is its undisguised aura. It's amazing, brother, your ability really reproduces Momoshiki's breath. Kizaru said in surprise, as if the eyeballs under the toad mirror were about to pop out. If the body shape and breath are reproduced 1-to-1, if even the strength is the same, then it will start to be outrageous. Just when the two were shocked, a system prompt sounded in Sha-En's mind. Congratulations to the master for completing the system growth task and obtaining the second quota of dead warriors. Ding, the growth task is now released. In an official battle, use the dead warrior to defeat Vice Admiral or the captain level character, and you can get the third dead warrior quota. Sure enough, it's different to rely on my brother's back. The task is completed after only a short time of meeting, ha ha ha. Sha-En laughed from the bottom of her heart, feeling very happy to complete the task for the first time. Kizaru and Momoshiki looked at each other in amazement. The breath is the same. This kind of ability is really pervert in a certain way. If Old Man Garp, Marshal Sengoku and those guys can reproduce it. Thinking of this, Momoshiki asked again, is its strength really the same as mine? Why don't you try it yourself? Sha-En did not continue to emphasize the 100% replica strength, but took the opportunity to let Momoshiki personally verify it. The little abacus is crackling. Fighting against the Blood Shadow, maybe there is a chance to complete the newly released system task. Kizaru watched with interest, and was also curious about the power of the Blood Shadow, and did not stop him from being violent in the office. Okay, Momoshiki nodded excitedly, and was about to draw his knife decisively. Unexpectedly, at this time, the wretched voice of the T-Dolphin came. Mr. Kizaru, can I come in? Instantly, Momoshiki's face darkened, and he stopped moving. The calculation is coming. Kizaru looked at Sha-En and shook his head helplessly. I must have heard that Momoshiki is here, so I came here. Sure enough, Sha-En watched the wretched Uncle T-Pig holding flowers, greeted Kizaru, and showed courtesy to Momoshiki. Only then did he see the blood figure exactly like Momoshiki standing in the office. His eyes widened in surprise. He likes Momoshiki, he knows its figure like the back of his hand, and he was surprised at the first sight. How could there be a blood-colored humanoid thing here? If you look carefully, you can see the clue immediately. The face, facial features, and even the contours of the up and down curves are exactly the same as Momoshiki in front of me. It's just that the whole body is bloody, like a shadow standing up. Plus even the breath is the same. Suddenly, the T-Dolphin was very surprised. What is this? No, Mr. Kizaru, what's the matter? After the T-Dolphin was surprised, he pointed at the blood shadow with a confused face, and asked Kizaru in doubt. Kizaru didn't say anything when he looked at the T-Pig who came in rashly, so he had no choice but to ask Momoshiki to introduce him. This is Mr. Kizaru's real brother, Sha-en. Momoshiki is not interested in it, but sooner or later the same high-level executives will know, so he acted as an explainer. The T-Dolphin looked at Sha-en, who had naturally curly black hair and folded her arms like a little adult, and her jaw almost fell to the ground. Kizaru Admiral, in his 50s, has a kid brother. What about trouble? But when Kizaru and Momoshiki said this, they had to believe it, and they were immediately surprised. Sha-en waved his hand as a greeting. So, what about it? The T-Dolphin is most concerned about this blood shadow that looks exactly like Momoshiki. This is Sha-en's blood shadow fruit ability. I just used my blood to create a shadow. It is said that it has 100% reproduction strength. Momoshiki said to him speechlessly. If this guy didn't break in suddenly, he would have almost tested it now. What? Use blood to create a 100% powerful shadow? No, I've never heard of a blood shadow fruit. This ability is really powerful. The T-Dolphin couldn't help but widen its eyes when he heard this. He couldn't believe it, and looked at Sha-en in shock as he spoke. If this is the case, one can imagine how outrageous it is. Creating powerful blood shadows does not mean increasing the number of strong people. I saw it with my own eyes. Sha-en used my blood to create this blood shadow. Even the breath is the same. You came here just to test your strength. The tealfish's surprise was expected. Momoshiki stared at him unkindly and said, I see. The T-Dolphin shrank its neck and smiled mischievously. I still have to try how strong my brother is. Gion just drew his sword and wanted to fight it. But when you come, let's take a look together. Kizaru patted Sha-en and said with a smile. He was obviously in a good mood at this time. But at this time, the T-Dolphin who learned that Momoshiki was going to compete with the blood shadow suddenly thought about it. Normally, Momoshiki is not willing to compete with him, and he doesn't have to be serious when it comes to actually competing. Isn't it just right to have a replica of Momoshiki's blood? You can make unscrupulous moves and carry out a fight between the two alternate admirals. So he quickly put forward a suggestion and said, since this is the case, it seems that it is not appropriate for Momoshiki Vice Admiral to fight her own shadow. If it is really a 100% replica of the strength, it is most appropriate for me to fight it. What's wrong? Momoshiki, who was in high spirits, immediately wanted to kick the T-Dolphin. But this time, Sha-en rolled his eyes and said with a smile, yes, you are all the same, but if you want to fight my blood shadow, you have to contribute some blood, not much, 400 cc. Now there is just one spot, and if you get the blood of the T-Dolphin, you can get another spot by defeating him with Momoshiki's blood shadow. Momoshiki didn't want the T-Dolphin at first, but when she heard that Sha-en's condition was to ask for the blood of the T-Dolphin, she smiled and stopped talking. The T-Dolphin glanced at her and found that she didn't care, so he agreed on the spot. It's just a pack of blood, no big deal, anyway, it's the boss's younger brother who wants to use it. Hearing this, Kizaru also stepped forward with a smile and said, then the T-Dolphin will play, but you can't fight in the office, go to the training ground in the back mountain. It doesn't matter who fights Blood Shadow, but now the few people present, including the T-Dolphin, are looking forward to Blood Shadow's performance. And if the Blood Shadow is really a 100% reproduction of the strength, wouldn't it be possible to tell who is stronger between the two alternate admirals? The group of 4 then came to the secluded training ground in the back mountain, and there was no one else here. The T-Dolphin was faintly excited, and as soon as he entered the arena, he drew out a long sword, the sword of One Piece World. With a wave of Sha-en's hand, the blood shadow that was temporarily put away also entered the arena, and Momoshiki also gave the blood shadow his sword to fight. One's own shadow, of course it is suitable to use one's own knife. At this time, two brothers, Kizaru and Shaen, had already found their seats, and they raised their legs and waited in exactly the same posture. Bring it on. The T-Dolphin refrained from other thoughts, intending to be serious. With one stroke of the long sword in his hand, armament haki covered the sword body along the arm, dyed black, and the undulating haki could be seen with the naked eye. Immediately afterwards, Zuying also drew out his long sword, stood upright, raised the knife and pointed it at the T-Dolphin, and the same armament haki was entwined and used. This is a very familiar hand gesture for Momoshiki, and I was even more surprised when I saw it. It really reproduced my movements, and this haki is as strong as you. Kizaru on the side immediately continued in surprise. Naturally, he could see it with his eyesight. The confronting T-Dolphins also did not expect that the blood shadow is really so magical, and the power hidden in the body of haki can be reproduced. While Snack was surprised, he shot fiercely. Lifting a step as a sprint, the figure is swept away quickly, and the long sword cuts obliquely. The blood shadow reacted quickly, one hand turned into two holding a sword, and collided with the T-Dolphin's blade. Take it easy. The collision between the two weapons was full of force, and a circle of wind swept away, blowing the flags hanging on all sides to rattle. Momoshiki and Kizaru's eyes froze after seeing this. Although it was only the first collision, they could already see something. At this moment, the T-Dolphin continued to move, its feet collapsed, and with the momentum, the long sword slashed down, cutting towards Zuying's shoulder. But Zuying's reaction was also very quick, as if he had known the location of the T-Dolphin in advance, and turned around and retreated in one go. Knowledge. Momoshiki's swordsmanship. After the confrontation, the T-Dolphin was surprised. He didn't expect the blood shadow to reproduce so much strength. But at this time, there was no room for thinking too much. The bloody figure disappeared in place, and the next moment it was already attacking from the side. This is Momoshiki's fighting habit, and he likes to attack with shaved high-speed movement. Immediately, the T-Dolphins lost all contempt, and the two sides fought thoroughly, bending over, jumping, swordsmanship, Marine 6 styles, and using them alternately. The edge of the sword is cold, and the fight between the T-Dolphin and the blood shadow is inextricably linked, which is extremely exciting. At the same time, he was also more and more surprised that the blood shadow had really reached this level. You must know that it was really moving now. As for Kizaru and Momoshiki, they couldn't sit still. Really, it's true. The blood shadow has completely reproduced my strength. Momoshiki himself knew his own strength, and immediately saw the horror of the blood shadow clearly after a battle. Including Kizaru, all the T-Dolphins who are fighting have learned. Blood shadow has exactly the same power as Momoshiki. In knowledge color, armed color haki, as well as swordsmanship, and even action details, the combat consciousness is completely consistent. The more Kizaru watched, the more shocked he became, and he couldn't help shouting, "It's amazing! It's amazing! My brother, your blood shadow can really reproduce 100% of its strength." On the crumbling training ground floor, blood shadows and T-Dolphin staggered and the powerful collisions continued. Now the T-Dolphin is fighting with almost all its skills, with a serious expression on its face, and the blood shadow is not at a disadvantage, and has back and forth with it. Kizaru Pelusolino saw that the blood shadow was really so powerful, and he was very happy while exclaiming that he was amazing. Because this is the ability of Shaen, his own brother. Momoshiki was already shocked, as if he was watching himself fighting, staring intently. Seeing the blood shadow's performance, smooth swordsmanship, physical skills and sharp offensive, Shaen was also secretly excited, clenching her fists very excitedly. It's great. The strength of the blood shadow is a replica of Momoshiki, which is comparable to the T-Dolphin. But my blood shadow is a dead soldier, not afraid of death. Shaen's excitement is precisely because the blood shadow can be resurrected at any time. If they are evenly matched, how can the opponent block Zuying's desperate style of play? A vice admiral can also kill a vice admiral on the spot. Of course, Shaen didn't say anything about this, and the order to compete now didn't kill him. Suddenly at this time, there was a bang. Both the blood shadow and the T-Dolphin flew upside down, knocking down the walls on both sides. Immediately, the two figures collided quickly again, sword lights crisscrossed, and the sword energy drawn out cut out hideous marks on the ground of the training ground. The more the T-Dolphin intensifies, the more destructive its moves become. The same is true for Blood Shadow, who holds Momosegi's Jinpailuo, and changes from simple swordsmanship to various sword lights and sword spirits. Under the pressure, the T-Dolphins can only increase their strength. I didn't expect the Blood Shadow to completely imitate your strength, and you will not lose the wind. Yeah, I didn't expect that Blood Shadow could really be reproduced perfectly. Kizaru and Momosegi, who were watching the battle, were already amazed and had no doubts about the strength of Blood Shadow. It was also the first time that Shaoan, who was next to him, saw this kind of battle scene. He was both surprised and excited, and almost got hooked. However, the fight between the T-Dolphin and the Blood Shadow gradually increased, and the swords were flying across the sky. Kizaru watched the battle from the sidelines and was affected to stop it. It's almost there, plus. The blood replica is Momosegi, who is almost equal to the T-Dolphin. If the fight continues, the entire Marineford will probably notice this and cause turmoil. After hearing Kizaru's voice, the T-Dolphins in the battle could not help but relax their offensive. It's really amazing. It's exactly the same as Momosegi in every way, but this is the first time I've fought seriously with Momosegi. Hee. There is no way. He also feels that he can't take down the Blood Shadow. Only a life and death struggle can have results, and at the same time he has to marvel at the power of the Blood Shadow. But at this time, Shaoan next to Kizaru smiled secretly, and secretly ordered the Blood Shadow to increase the offensive and win the battle. The T-Dolphins are gradually pulling back. If they don't go straight to victory and complete the task now, when will it be? Immediately, the strength of the T-Dolphin's sword in the field was obviously weaker, but the next moment he was slashed by the Blood Shadow and deviated from his position. The standing figure of the T-Dolphin shifted, and surprise flashed in his eyes. This blow was heavier than the previous attack. Seeing this, Shaoan knows that she is stable. In fact, Momosegi's strength is a little better than that of the T-Porcupine who is not trained. As expected, the Blood Shadow's reaction was very fast. Taking advantage of this, he jumped up on the spot, kicked his legs together, and directly knocked the tealfish out of balance into the air. At the moment of landing, it is even more Six style. Shaved and launched, a set of operations is smooth and smooth. The T-Dolphin slammed onto the collapsed wall, knocking down a large area, and before he could stand up, the long sword of Jinpailuo was already on his neck. It's so fast. Admit defeat. Admit defeat. Little brother Shaoan, don't let him do it. The blade of the famous sword was very sharp, so he reluctantly put down the weapon in his hand and looked at the blood-red shadow, and the T-Dolphin raised his hands with a wry smile. Anyway, this is the shadow of Momosegi, which is equivalent to admitting defeat to the goddess, no shame. Immediately, Zuying put away Jinpailuo, and stood there dumbly. It's really pervert. The strength I have practiced for many years has been learned by a pool of blood. Momosegi didn't know what to say for a while, and was still amazed inside. It looks like a piece of wood, and it's really powerful in fighting. Brother Shaoan, you are so capable. Kizaru laughed from ear to ear and praised. Needless to say, this is a perfect replica of Momosegi's strength. Think about what this ability means. Kizaru, Momosegi, and even the T-Dolphin who slapped the dust on his back, the three of them looked at Shaoan with different eyes. This is definitely a treasure boy, and it can bring great help to the entire marine. However, Shaoan at this time was both surprised and delighted. At the moment when the T-Dolphin added up and conceded, the system reminded that the task was completed. Ding! Congratulations to the master for completing the task and obtaining the third quota of dead soldiers. New system tasks are now released. 1. Create a captain-level pirate warrior. 2. Defeat Shichibukai and above characters with dead soldiers. Completion will grant you a 4th Slayer slot and remove the cooldown of the 1st Slayer. Seeing the new mission, Shaoan was surprised that the conditions for completing the mission had increased to 2, and the first condition was that the dead warrior to be created must be a pirate. Looks like I have to find someone from the 4 emperors to get blood. How about finding a captain-level pirate? This is a certain degree of difficulty. Fortunately, there are now 3 places for dead soldiers. What is gratifying is that the resurrection time of the first dead man has been removed. In short, it can be resurrected infinitely. Sha-en imagined the scene of the blood shadow fighting the enemy desperately, just killed and resurrected with full blood, and laughed inwardly. After all, the level of Momoshiki can be regarded as the mainstay of the pirate world. Except for the legend of 4 emperors, who can't fight. Relying on infinite resurrection, and Admiral can touch it. Then, after reading the system prompt, Sha-en took out the big teapot. The Tea-Dolphin and Kizaru, Momoshiki were still looking at the blood shadow, amazed again and again, but the big pot spouted in front of the Tea-Dolphin. The 400cc you promised can be released. Sha-en chuckled. The Tea-Dolphin is also refreshing, and in Momoshiki's snickering, he cut his wrist directly. Kizaru smiled without saying a word. He said bloodletting is good, my brother will create a backup Admiral's combat power to come out. But right now, suddenly a figure broke into the training ground. Sakazuki Admiral, Momoshiki, the Tea-Dolphin saw it. Oh, it turned out to be a Kainu. When the Tea-Dolphin was defeated, the movement of flying upside down and smashing was too big, coupled with the previous small movement, it attracted a Kainu to investigate. As a result, a Kainu, who came over, noticed the strange blood shadow at first glance, and then saw that the Tea-Dolphin was still bleeding, and the surroundings were in a mess. What? How dare you come to Naval Headquarters to commit murder? Immediately, his eyes widened with anger, and the magma burst out all over his body, and he was about to do it. A Kainu moved his hand, and it was a clean move. The fist turned into burning magma, the burning air was distorted, and it went straight towards the blood shadow. Sha-en took a breath. Just by looking at it she could tell how powerful this magma fist was. The Tea-Dolphin and Momoshiki were confused when they saw Sakazuki taking action without hesitation, and they had no time to stop him. Wait, Sakazuki. Fortunately, Sha-en still has brother Kizaru by her side. I saw a flash of light without even seeing it clearly. At a dazzling speed, Kizaru had already flashed in front of a Kainu's fist at the speed of light. Kizaru's hand flashed and turned into a ball of magma that directly blocked a Kainu's magma fist. Misunderstanding. Misunderstanding. That's one of our own. When a Kainu was stunned, Kizaru quickly stuck his head out and said with a smile. Misunderstand. You are also. A Kainu then put away his fist, and the magma quickly converged and returned to normal. Momoshiki, the Tea-Dolphin and Sha-en all breathed a sigh of relief. Good guy. This Akainu who carries out justice really doesn't hesitate to take action. So, what's going on? Akainu calmed down and looked around. It seemed that he had made a mistake and it was not an enemy attack. The strange bloody man has not moved yet, standing there blankly. Apart from Momoshiki, Kizaru is also a little kid. There are traces of battle on the Tea-Dolphin's body, but he is also in a relaxed state. But what is he doing there bleeding? At this time, Chado faced Akainu's questioning gaze, sneered, handed the collected blood to Sha-en, and said at the same time, "This is Mr. Kizaru's younger brother." Hearing this, the always cold Akainu's expression became slightly strange, and he looked at Kizaru. "Porisalino, your brother. The difference is a bit outrageous." "Yes, my father always has children, don't talk about this." "My brother Sha-en, this is the blood shadow created by his blood shadow fruit ability. It is made from Momoshiki's blood. Just now, it was a Tea-Dolphin and the blood shadow. It was not an enemy attack. It was Kizaru who returned the favor, briefly explaining the situation in a few words. Blood shadow fruit ability. It seems that there is no such ability." Akainu then understood what was going on, but as for the blood shadow fruit, he couldn't think of such a fruit. There are so many fruits in the world, so it's normal not to know. After all, the ability is right in front of you. We have already tested it. This fruit's ability can create a shadow that 100% replicates the strength through blood. Kizaru talked about Sha-en's abilities and couldn't help but want to pinch Sha-en's cheeks. Shindao, this little brother is really rare, and his ability is also rare. Sha-en slapped his hand away without mercy. But at this time, Akainu raised his hand and said, "Wait. You mean, 100% replica of strength? A bit outrageous, right?" Akainu couldn't believe it. "Yes, 100%. Momoshiki's strength is perfectly reflected in the blood shadow, and the Tea-Pig understands this very well." Kizaru nodded affirmatively. There was obvious shock in Akainu's eyes, especially when he looked at Odama and Momoshiki. The two of them made it clear that they were sure. Yes, Mr. Sakazuki, Sha-En's blood shadow is very powerful. I can hardly gain any advantage in fighting with it. It perfectly replicates Momosegi's strength. T-Dolphin turned to look at Shui Ying with an expression of wonder when he thought about it. Momosegi nodded one after another and said, "My breath, haki and even the physical swordsmanship and blood shadow are all inherited completely. I can only say that this ability is really pervert." After hearing the words of the two people, Akainu carefully felt the restrained aura on Zuying's body. It was really the same as Momosegi. I couldn't help but secretly gasp. The cold and stiff face was also moved, and he completely believed their words. Kizaru, who is also an admiral, would not lie to him as a joke, and the affirmation of Momosegi, the T-Dolphin, is even more powerful proof. And looking at the traces, the breath was right, which made Akainu lower his head and look at Sha-En. "Kid, the ability of the blood shadow fruit is of great significance." Sha-En raised her head slightly and glanced at him, smiling secretly in her heart. "Now I am holding 400 cc of T-Dolphin's blood in my hand. If it is left to dry, the blood will coagulate." He didn't say anything to Akainu, but he created the blood shadow again on the spot. "Just hold the container and start, create blood shadow." Everyone present could see pure light flashing on Sha-En's hand, and immediately, the blood in the container began to move. Then, like a living thing, the volume expands in a crazy way, and the limbs of the human body are stretched out in the process of convex changes. Looking at this scene, Akainu couldn't help but shrink his pupils and was shocked. However, Kizaru, Momosegi, and Chado did not expect Sha-En to directly start creating the second blood shadow. They were shocked and watched the blood coagulate with concentration. The process is the same as before, and the shape begins to become clearer. After a while, a faceless figure with all its orifices in deep black, and its whole body covered in blood and purple, stood on the same spot with a body shape and outline that looked like the blood of a T-Dolphin. Standing next to the first blood shadow, it turned out to be the blood-smeared version of the T-Dolphin and Momosegi. Witnessing the birth of the blood shadow with his own eyes, Akainu's doubts about the blood shadow fruit completely disappeared. Thinking of its terrifying ability to reproduce, the important thing is that he can actually create a second one. This was a bit heaven-defying, which made Akainu think a lot and get a little excited. The T-Dolphin was surprised and said, "I thought there could only be one. Or should I be prepared to make it a little difficult? I didn't expect to make the second one so easily. If the number is not limited to 1 or 2, hey, it's somewhat pervert. You must know that this is a blood shadow that reproduces the strength 100%. Indeed, it would be heaven-defying if there could be more than one at the same time." As he said that, Momosegi looked at Sha-En in shock, with a look of expectation in his beautiful eyes. Even if it's not so heaven-defying now, what will happen to this ability after it continues to be developed or awakened? At this moment, Kizaru also realized that he had never asked his brother's abilities carefully. So he quickly squatted down and asked expectantly, "Brother, by the way, how many blood shadows can you create at the same time?" "Actually, there aren't many. Now we can only have 3 at the same time, and there's no time limit." Sha-En held up 3 fingers and sighed with an expression of dissatisfaction with the number. Indeed, completing 2 missions and opening 3 slots was not enough. I still wanted to wave my hand and let the Blood Shadow army sweep across the pirate dimension. There is still a long way to go. But the presence of 3 blood shadows at the same time has a completely different meaning to others. For example, Momosegi's combat power is a huge improvement for Marine. One of them can play a key role when facing threats such as pirates. And Sha-En's ability is to create 100% clones, which is equivalent to at least 3 more candidates of Admiral level strength. For a moment, the 4 people Akainu, Kizaru, Momosegi, and Oshado thought about the importance of it. They were extremely shocked by such an awesome ability, and their expressions all became excited. Akainu immediately said, "Pelusilino. Take him to see Sengoku." Shocked, Akainu understood that Sha-En was so crucial. The shock to Sha-En is not only about the 3 blood shadow places at this time, but also about the changes in the future. For them, Sha-En's is the devil fruit ability. With such a powerful blood shadow ability at only 8 years old, if it continues to develop, or even awakens the ability, how pervert will it be? His ability is enough to change Marine's future. So Akainu immediately wanted to take Sha-en to report to Sengoku, so he said decisively to Kizaru. As Marine Admiral, Kizaru also knows it in his heart. It's just that Sha-en is too young, only 8 years old. Kizaru actually doesn't want Sha-en to get involved in Marine's affairs out of love. However, the strong ability he displayed made him think carefully. Maybe it would be good to find a good job for his brother in Marine. Brother, what do you think? After seeing Sengoku, he would probably be left in Marine. Kizaru respectfully asked Sha-en himself. He knew that this kid was smart since he was a child and had his own ideas. Sha-en had expected this situation a long time ago. Didn't she come to Marineford just to lean against a big tree and enjoy the shade? So happy. No problem, will I be able to become an official if I meet Marshal Sengoku? He readily agreed and deliberately sold Bo's innocence. What he thought in his heart was that if he could get mixed up with the top Marines, then he wouldn't have to worry about not having the blood of the strong to create a blood shadow for himself. Hearing Sha-en's words, both T-Dolphin and Momoshiki couldn't help laughing. You are so good, you must have a good job. Kizaru even smiled, picked Sha-en up and put it on his shoulders, and said, go see Marshal Sengoku first. Seeing that Sha-en agreed, Akainu showed approval, and took the lead to lead the crowd to the fortress. However, at this time, in the meeting room on the top floor of Marine headquarters, wearing a pair of frog glasses, a twisted beard, and a seagull cap, Marine Marshal Sengoku slammed the table angrily. It's getting more and more rampant. The reason why he is so angry is because he just heard the report that Shichibukai Doflamingo openly traded with the Beast's pirates for the drought. On Dressrosa Island, there is no shyness about world government. What is the transaction? Arms. There's even a rumored faux devil fruit. He is relying on the energy behind him, but we are really not good at doing it, so we can only pretend that we don't know. The Rear Admiral who reported the situation couldn't help shrinking his neck. Wahaha, Sengoku, don't get too angry. Heavenly Yaksha is in a special situation after all, let's think of a way. Garp didn't care about this at all, instead he comforted Sengoku with a smile. That's right, anger is anger, it seems that there is really a way to deal with Doflamingo. Granny he crossed her fingers, thinking about something. This Heavenly Yaksha was full of tricks, and he dared to be so upright, so he probably had nothing to fear. The crime of privately trading with the pirate 4 emperors is not enough to punish him. It is still necessary to investigate the factory inside, and it is best to destroy it. Sengoku took a deep breath and turned back the document on the table with a headache. But Doflamingo has a special identity, and Marine can't force him to search, which is very difficult. But at this moment, the guards outside the door informed that Akainu, Kizaru, Momoshiki, T-Dolphin and other high-level officials had arrived. What a coincidence. Sengoku, Garp, Granny Crane and others were surprised. After a few people came in, Sengoku didn't scribble, pointed to the place below and said, you guys came just in time, and there happened to be a troublesome matter to discuss. Trouble, Mr. Sengoku, we also have something important to report. Akainu was slightly surprised, and exchanged a glance with Kizaru. The atmosphere in the conference room seemed to be a little irritable. Then let's talk about your business first. Sengoku has returned to his usual rigorous appearance, nodded. It's about him. Akainu looked at Sha-en behind him. Kizaru put it on the chair with one hand. Only then did everyone see Sha-en, who was not very tall, and everyone including Sengoku was startled and very surprised. Why did you bring a child over? This is the meeting room at the highest level of Marine, what's the fuss with a child who hasn't even grown his hair yet? This is the old man's real brother, Sha-en. Kizaru introduced with a smile. Hi, Sha-en didn't bother to look at these acquaintances, and waved hello. Sengoku, Granny Crane and others looked at each other in blank dismay, which was even more unexpected. Kizaru has a kid brother. And look at the look of Akainu, Momoshiki, T-Dolphin, it's obviously true. This is too novel. Garp stood aside, staring at Sha-en and Kizaru with exaggerated eyes. So that's the case. Then what are you going to say? Sengoku gave Sha-en a friendly smile, and his agitated heart calmed down a lot, and then continued to ask. Sha-en has the powerful ability of the peak Marine. I strongly recommend that the Marshal is important to cultivate Sha-en. It was Akainu who was bold enough to get straight to the point. But just such a sentence made Sengoku, Granny Crane, Garp and others a little confused. Do you want to hear what you're saying? Bring Kizaru's younger brother in and say what the hell is the key training. It also subverts the powerful ability of Marine. Those adjutants, Vice Admiral, and Rear Admiral all looked at each other, thinking that Akainu Admiral hated pirates too deeply, and that he has some mental problems after implementing justice. But at this time, seeing the strange expressions of the high-level officials, Shaen cooperatively snapped her fingers in front of everyone. I saw two blood figures wearing marine costumes and caps pressed down very low walked in. And he took off his clothes in front of everyone, revealing his real appearance. Immediately, Sengoku, Garp and others who were watching curiously stood up in shock. What's this? What a weird humanoid creature. The whole body is blood red and purple in color, without a specific appearance, it looks like a person is painted with blood red color. And the breath, as well as this outline. Why does it look familiar? The Marines who were originally in the conference room looked at the two blood figures in astonishment. Akainu immediately introduced. This is the ability of Shaen. The ability of the Blood Shadow Fruit. Hiss, Blood Shadow. Do you have this ability? The name is weird enough. However, the other Vice Admirals and Rear Admirals in the meeting room did not make any noise, but looked at Akainu, Kizaru and the others without knowing why. Sengoku, Garp, and Granny Crane were also very puzzled. Is this a blood shadow? It feels a little familiar. Don't be silly, tell me what's going on. Kizaru went on to explain. These two blood shadows are actually shadows made with the blood of Momoshiki and the T-Dolphin, and reproduced 100% of their strength. At first glance, it seems nothing. Garp picked up the teacup and said, so that's how it is. Immediately, he paused and reacted and exclaimed, wait, what are you talking about? 100% replica strength. Then these two shadows, aren't they the strength of the alternate admiral? For a while, everyone including Sengoku and Granny Crane were taken aback. What's going on here? The Blood Shadow Fruit ability is actually so powerful. 100% copy the strength of the Blood Shadow. This surprised Sengoku, Granny Crane and others. The two Blood Shadows, and Kizaru's younger brother, made them very curious. Ahem. Let me explain. Akainu Kizaru only talked about the Blood Shadow Fruit, and Momoshiki stood up helplessly and explained to the Marine executives present. Mr. Kizaru's younger brother, Shaen, ate the Blood Shadow Fruit and used my blood to create this Blood Shadow. Afterwards, he defeated the T-Dolphin in the test ability, and he was sure to completely copy my strength. Before coming also created another Gore Shadow with the blood of the T-Dolphin. With Shaen's ability, he is now able to control 3 blood shadows. Through Momoshiki's words, everyone present finally understood why they felt familiar. It turned out that this was made by the blood of Momoshiki and T-Dolphins. You mean, Blood Shadow has fully possessed your strength and even defeated you? It is a confirmed fact. Sengoku couldn't believe it, and looked at Zuying and Shaen in surprise. Can you still create 3 blood shadows now? This is an amazing ability for children to acquire. At this time, the T-Dolphin was embarrassed to testify from the side. Yes, everyone, the fighting ability of the Blood Shadow is almost a copy of Momoshiki's. I am fighting with my real skills. The Marines present couldn't believe it at first, but one person was so sure, and immediately convinced of the Blood Shadow's ability, his expression changed. That's why Sakazuki Admiral proposed to raise this little guy with all his strength. Wouldn't it be even more awesome if such a powerful ability is further developed? Yeah, we can make 3 now, and they are all at the level of Momoshiki Vice Admiral. This is incredible. The crowd was shocked, gasped, stunned, and started whispering one after another. Even Garp, Granny Crane, and Sengoku, the 3 respected elders, looked at Shaen in a different way. What a brat, it's Marine's great treasure. It's amazing, this kind of Blood Shadow ability can completely increase Marine's combat power by a large margin. Shaen, you 2 brothers are the pride of Marine. Sengoku's gaffe expression quickly subsided, and he praised him on the spot. Huetu wanted to tie Shaen to Marine. Not anymore. Shaen, who was silent on the chair, was also smiling now, scratching her forehead in embarrassment, showing a child's reserve in front of the high-level executives. Seeing this, Kizaru explained clearly. Presumably Marshal Sengoku and others can understand the importance of Shaen, so he took the opportunity to say, "My brother is very smart since he was a child. Although he is only 8 years old, he is actually just like a young adult. With such great ability, I want him to join Marine to grow better." Without mentioning the name of Justice or anything, Kizaru is just saying good things for Shaen. Of course Sengoku had no reason to refuse, and Garp laughed even more. "It seems that your brother also wants to be a colleague with you. Yes, he will definitely be the best Marine fighter in the future. Saying that, I still don't forget to give a thumbs up." But Sengoku reconsidered. If an 8-year-old child joins Marine, what position should he give? At this time, Kizaru continued, "In view of Shaen's special ability, I think it's better to start with the rank of Rear Admiral, so that he can better transition to this period. To put it bluntly, it is protection. After all, Shaen's ability has not really developed yet, and she has a certain favorable position in Marine." Kizaru is also a little selfish. There is no reason for his younger brother to come with such a strong ability and still be at the bottom. "Well, there is no problem with this matter. I will confirm the appointment with the department above." Sengoku nodded, readily agreed, "It's not a big deal. On the contrary, the joining of Shaen will bring about different changes to Marine, which is what all the executives are happy about." "Thank you, Mr. Sengoku." Salute politely. Shaen said yes in her heart. It is good to have a backer. Rear Admiral started. Watching the little doll salute, Sengoku's inner irritability was emptied a lot, and he laughed out loud. Kizaru and others were happy, and even Akainu twitched at Shaen. He thinks that Shaen is still young. As long as she is trained well, she will definitely be a sharp blade against evil in the future, an existence that Marine fears. The matter of Shaen is an episode. Sengoku, Granny Crane and others are still facing the problem of Shichibukai Heavenly Yakusha, but watching Shaen salute, Sengoku suddenly has a burst of inspiration. "Before you came, there was intelligence about Doflamingo's blatant dealings with the Beast's pirates. That guy is going crazy. I think it might be appropriate for Shaen to do this, using the weirdness of the blood shadow fruit to destroy both its business and the factory. Marine has no reason to enter the hinterland of Dressrosa, but with Shaen's ability, there may be a chance, and the accident will not be counted on Marine's head. Sending an 8-year-old to wreak havoc on Shichibukai land. There are even Beast's pirates there." Hearing this, Garp and Granny Crane's eyes changed slightly, and they looked at Sengoku. Kizaru got up directly. "This task is too dangerous. Mr. Sengoku, Shaen has not experienced systematic training. Currently, he cannot complete such a difficult task. If Shaen had strength, Kizaru would not overprotect her, but would follow her secretly. Experience is also growth." "That's right, Marshal Sengoku, this arrangement is inappropriate. You let a child face Shichibukai, beasts. Now Doflamingo is far less important than Shaen." Akainu frowned and objected, also expressing his dissatisfaction with the task arrangement. Both understand how tricky it is to involve Doflamingo. But who can let it go? Can't let Shaen take risks like this. Accident and tomorrow, who knows what will come first. I'm just making a suggestion. You guys should take care of this matter. Sengoku nodded, and didn't dwell on it. After all, Shaen is really a kid. He brought it up to see if everyone could expand their ideas. But when it comes to letting them take action to solve it, Akainu, Kizaru, and even the Marine soldiers in the audience are a little bit difficult. The only way to break the Doflamingo deal seems to be to send undercover agents in, without knowing it's Marine. From that guy's unscrupulousness, we can know that Marine can't control Doflamingo at all. Even if it is an undercover agent, once it is discovered, the higher-ups will come forward, and the person who did the work will probably be punished. It's too late for undercover agents to break into the interior, and the people in Don Quixote family are very strict in checking. Sengoku was particularly aware of this and shook his head. However, just when everyone was frowning, under everyone's surprised eyes, Shaen raised her hand and said, "It's actually not that troublesome, I'm willing to go." Sengoku, Garp, Granny Crane, Akainu, and even all the Marines present looked at Shaen in surprise. The 8-year-old kid actually said he was willing to go. People like Granny Crane think that maybe he doesn't know enough about Shichibukai, the terror of Beast's pirates. Akainu didn't say anything, but looked at Shaen seriously, thinking in his heart that he has courage at the age of 8. I even think that Shaen is a good piece of jade, as long as it is carved with heart, it will definitely be the best. Brother, don't mess around. Kizaru's expression changed, and he hurried forward to press down Sha-En's raised hand. I'm not messing around. Isn't my blood shadow just right for this kind of self-sabotaging mission? Anyway, I don't need to go up and fight. Sha-En turned her head sincerely and said to Kizaru. Not to mention the marine mission. The task of the system is to create captain pirates and defeat Shichibukai, which is not a good thing. It's better to be on time than to come by coincidence. The trip to Dressrosa Island can be done together. It's almost tailor-made. Sha-En can't wait. No, brother Sha-En, this matter is more troublesome. The T-Dolphin was also worried that Sha-En didn't understand, so he secretly whispered something in his ear. But Sha-En still looked at the marshal in front of him firmly, and said, I am willing to go, but Mr. Sengoku collects all the blood of the top marines after I complete the task to give me the ability to use, well, each 400 cc. Kizaru couldn't help covering his face. This little brother really planned to go, and even negotiated terms. Granny Crane and Garp were both dumbfounded and surprised when they heard the words, and then they both looked at Sengoku. Sengoku was overjoyed in his heart, but on the surface he remained calm, but he also admired Sha-En very much, and agreed on the spot, there is no problem with these, so let's talk about it. In fact, from Sengoku's point of view, Sha-En is the only one to do this task, and only his ability is the most suitable. Marine will give support to Sha-En whether it is completed or not. If it can be completed, the high-level officials, including Aokiji who was not present, will not refuse to donate blood. Of course, everyone also knew that Sha-En asked for blood to improve her ability and create blood shadows. Seeing that the old and the young have made a decision in a few words, Kizaru is even more troubled. How can he refuse when it is finalized at the meeting? He had no choice but to look at Sha-En like a big grievance. But for Sha-En's safety, Sengoku will not let him go alone. After thinking about it, he said, in this case, the warships and personnel will be well equipped, and Momoshiki Vice Admiral will set off with you, which can be regarded as personal protection for you. You just need to manipulate the blood shadow to destroy it. As long as the four emperors didn't come out in person, it would be no problem to use Momoshiki's strength to protect and take Sha-En away. Sha-En was satisfied with this arrangement, and Akainu and Kizaru, the two people who cared the most, were also relieved. Gion, Sha-En's safety is entrusted to you. With such an arrangement, Kizaru gave up the idea of following secretly and asked. Relax, Mr. Kizaru. Momoshiki smiled beautifully and stood beside Sha-En. It's the first time to go out with a little kid who is a kid to perform a mission. In this way, Sha-En led her first mission in this world to Dressrosa Island. A few days later, Dressrosa Island's underground black market enters the port. A pirate flag with 4 crossed bones sails in. Blonde, sunglasses, and pink feathers, Doflamingo sits under a makeshift sunshade, sipping a cold drink, grinning as the pirate ship arrives. Standing behind him are several officers of the Don Quixote family. Joker, huge, fur-coated, metal-jawed Jack disembarked from a pirate ship. Doflamingo nodded as a compliment, and then the minions behind the two parties quickly carried out the transaction. Wano Kuni's ammunition in exchange for artificial devil fruit, mastered by Doflamingo. Yes, the number this time is a little more than last time. Jack glanced at the transaction amount and was very satisfied. Haha, there will only be more to come, Jack. Doflamingo smiled smugly, reached for a bottle of wine and threw it over. The transaction is completed and both parties are satisfied, why don't you have a drink first? However, just at that moment, a member of the Don Quixote family suddenly ran over anxiously, without even taking a breath, he hurriedly reported, Young Master. First found a marine warship coming. The only person who came was Momoshiki. Oh no, there was a kid in a military uniform, never seen before. The subordinate who reported it thought for a while, but it was better not to ignore a child, and said it out. Oh, really? It's just marine, why are you panicking? Doflamingo sneered and waved him off. But Jack the Drow of the Beast's Pirates turned his head and looked at Doflamingo without saying a word. These marines don't even know how to look. It's just a Momoshiki, just a backup admiral, it doesn't matter. Seeing Drought's eyes, Doflamingo mocked Marine and dismissed her. The alternate is not yet admiral, Even if 3 admirals come, they can't manage their own affairs. And he ignored Sha En's existence even more. I have seen your energy before. Hearing the news of the drought, he laughed twice, but didn't care too much. Then go to my palace to attend the banquet before going back. I'll send him away later. Doflamingo smiled and asked his subordinates to arrange things. In his eyes, a Momoshiki, with an unknown child, was dismissed casually. However, he didn't know that when his subordinates came to report, Sha En has ordered the 2 blood shadows to jump into the sea secretly, and has sneaked into Dressrosa Island to search for the underground factory. Probably the basement of the toy house. I forgot. Let the blood shadow search first, because Sha En has somewhat forgotten the exact location, but it doesn't matter, there is a range, the blood shadow can quickly find and destroy it. So when the 2 landed on the island and arrived at the capital of enthusiasm, Doflamingo came with a few unknown men. Haha, what a rare visitor, Naval Headquarters Alternate Admiral, the beauty Momoshiki will come to my kingdom. Doflamingo didn't look at Sha En at first, and didn't even look at Marine behind him, and said directly to Momoshiki. The laughter was so unique that Sha En dug his ears. Momoshiki narrowed his eyes and heard what Doflamingo's, my kingdom, meant. Doflamingo, there is a mission that needs to go to the City of Passion, so there is no need to go out so quickly to meet him. Oh, by the way, this is Kizaru Admiral's younger brother, Sha En. Momoshiki put on a deadpan, businesslike look, and introduced Sha En. Huh, Kizaru's real brother. Doflamingo was surprised immediately, and then began to look at Sha En. Kizaru has a kid brother at that age. Sha En smiled, and it seemed like a friendly approach. In fact, this Doflamingo was very arrogant, his eyes were too high, and he was too lazy to say hello. Doflamingo was surprised, but he just regarded Sha En as a child with an admiral background. Kizaru's younger brother, interesting. But let's talk about the purpose of coming here. Without any intention of giving way, Doflamingo chuckled again. We are here to capture 2 fugitives who sneaked into Dressrosa Island. Please cooperate with our search. Momoshiki said and took out 2 wanted posters from his body. The person on the wanted poster couldn't see clearly at all, just an outline and a cloak. The names below read the 2 brothers Santa, each offering a reward of 1 billion. Doflamingo was very surprised when he saw this. Come to search for the prisoner. I'm afraid there is no ulterior motive. A reward of 1 billion. How could I not know that such a vicious criminal has come to my place? No. Besides, how can you take out such a bounty that you can't even see your face? I advise you to take someone back with you. Without hesitation, Doflamingo thought that Momoshiki was looking for an excuse to search his territory, and there was nothing official in his words, so he directly issued an order to evict him. Even if there is such a person, Marine can't even think of searching. This is Doflamingo's original intention. Momoshiki didn't change his expression at all, and Sha En was not surprised either. He had already predicted this before he came. How could Doflamingo let the search go so easily? Moreover, Marine could not take forced action. Doflamingo, this is no joke. Those 2 prisoners are very dangerous. You'd better let us go in and search and identify them carefully. Momoshiki emphasized righteously. Something happened, and it's not Marine's fault. Doflamingo disagreed and said with some disdain, hey, this is my kingdom, understand? 1 billion prisoners can't run wild here. It's really too late if we don't care anymore. Sha En held Momoshiki's hand and spoke at this time. The tone also seemed urgent and no joke. Sha En, haha, little brat, do you think you want to deceive me by saying this with Momoshiki? That's ridiculous. After hearing what the kid Sha En said, Doflamingo stopped pretending and directly pointed out that the 2 of them were playing a double act. Then he continued to mock. You are just a small role in Marine. Even if the marshal comes, you don't have enough authority to search my territory. And it's so naive to try to fool me with such poor acting skills. Doflamingo showed no mercy and sneered contemptuously. But Sha En and Momoshiki did not lose their composure, they just looked at Doflamingo. As a result, he had something even worse that he didn't say, and in the middle of his taunting, suddenly, a huge explosion came from below the Alpine Palace and shook this side. The corner of Sha En's mouth curled up slightly. Through the connection with the blood, it was known that they had reached the underground black market and found the Smile Factory to destroy it. It seems that something happened inside. Please let us in. Momoshiki took the opportunity to say deliberately. Doflamingo had already looked back, knowing that it was an underground black market area. His face darkened, and he said coldly, "No need to bother you, Marine." At this time, Doflamingo's phone also rang, so he quickly avoided Momoshiki and Sha-en and answered it. Dover. The Smile Factory was attacked and completely blown up. Torebel was on the other side, telling the situation in a flustered tone. Smile is very important to the entire business chain of Doflamingo. Immediately, Brother Ming's complexion became even darker, his veins arched, and he said coldly, "Who is the other party?" "It was done by two cloaked men whom I've never seen before." Hearing this, Doflamingo was a little stunned, and suddenly turned his head to look at Momoshiki and Sha-en, who walked to the door of the coffee shop and sat down not far away. The wanted warrants just now were for the two cloaked men, but there really are. Seeing Doflamingo's gaze, Sha-en tilted her head and said, "Hey, what factory did we hear blow up?" Momoshiki said, "If those two prisoners did it, we can help." Doflamingo looked gloomy and ignored Sha-en and Momoshiki, who were a little chilled there, and said decisively to the phone bug, "All cadres are dispatched. Catch them no matter what." Then he took a deep breath, hung up the phone, and sat down as if nothing had happened. All three ignored the people around them watching. Sha-en and Momoshiki were not in a hurry, and even ordered 2 cups of coffee to enjoy, waiting slowly. Doflamingo didn't leave either, but stared at the two, wondering what he was thinking. But soon, the phone bug rang again. Doflamingo smiled, glanced at Sha-en and Momoshiki, who were opposite, and said with some pride, "This is the efficiency of Don Quixote family." Follow up on the phone. As a result, someone shouted from the opposite side, "Dover. It can't be stopped at all, those two cloaked men are too strong." The factory was destroyed and ran away, and many places were destroyed along the way. "We need support, otherwise they ran. Can all the cadres be dispatched to stop them from escaping? How can this be?" Doflamingo was stunned and shocked, the veins on his head burst out, and he used his hands hard. "The size, these two Marines are right in front of you. It's too embarrassing." Momoshiki and Sha-en all looked at Doflamingo with an inexplicable smile without changing their faces, which goes without saying. "Strong, of course strong. That's my shadow. How can a few Doflamingo cadres stop it?" And Momoshiki is more proud in his heart, and his chin is slightly raised. Doflamingo also thought it was a wordless sneer at him, surprised and annoyed at the same time, couldn't sit still and wanted to get up and leave. He had to go there himself and catch the two nameless guys. Frustrated. But there was another movement and voice from the phone bug. Dover, the cloaked man met Jack and started fighting with him. Doflamingo heaved a sigh of relief when he heard this, and sat down firmly again. The drought guy is also offering a reward of 1 billion, but his strength is not that simple, and he can win it with the cooperation of the cadres. Doflamingo, what about Jack the Dro? Momoshiki and Sha-en also heard the voice of the phone bug, so they knew it. Doflamingo let out a heck, and said proudly, "The Jack you're talking about is the audience who came to see the Colosseum. Judging by his attitude, I'm afraid there's nothing he can do if Marine catches him sitting with drought while drinking." Sha-en knew that both of them were pretending to be stupid, so she thought inwardly, "It's really crazy, the background is sky high." But this time the Blood Shadow has already made a move, and after destroying most of the black market, he may not end so well. At this time, Dressrosa Island, Joker's underground black market. There was chaos everywhere and thick smoke billowing. There was a big fight going on near the exit. Diamante, Torebel, Rao-ji, Senor, Gladius and others from the Don Quixote family are besieging Blood Shadow. Under the cover of the cloak, this Blood Shadow made of the blood of a T-dolphin is holding a standard long sword. It is extremely fast and persists in the siege of a group of people. There are traces of being attacked on Blood Shadow's body, but there is no bloodline. Buffalo, Rao-ji, and others have been injured. If it weren't for their absolute advantage in numbers, they might not be Blood Shadow's opponents. Not far away, the huge Jack the Dro was fighting a small cloaked Blood Shadow. The Blood Shadow, which was also holding a standard long sword, was extremely flexible, making it impossible for Jack to seize the opportunity to attack. Who are these two people? Why are they so difficult to deal with? Rao Ji cursed loudly. He really couldn't understand why such a master destroyed the young master's factory without saying a word. Their fighting power is too strong. Jack can't even take it down. Call Pika over quickly. Where is Pika? Torebel shouted angrily, very anxious and surprised. If we continue fighting like this, they will really run away. Pika and Sugar's mission is to guard the palace. They can't come here. Diamante fought with the T-Dolphin Blood Shadow twice, but it was herself who regressed, and she became even more angry when she heard this. Almost all the cadres are here, why can't we capture these two cloaked men? Hockey is too strong. Our siege has no effect even with the sight color, and the armed color is even more sharp. How can such a guy be heard of? Mahabey climbed out of the ruins and looked at the bloody shadow of the cloak in shock. The two are almost equally powerful, one is struggling with them, and the other can even fight against Drought. Yes, Mamasagi's blood shadow is even more outrageous. Drought's power is indeed very strong, but Zuying's speed makes it impossible for Drought to keep up. The clanking sound of collisions did not even hurt Zuying. And at this time, Mamasagi's blood shadow was even more sharp with swordsmanship. While pretending to retreat, he suddenly stabbed straight, and the tip of the knife pierced Hanbin's arm. The powerful armed color entanglement broke through his skin and penetrated deep into his muscles. With the provocative movements, a lot of blood spilled out. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the blood shadow, which could attack continuously, rolled up quickly, disappearing the spilled blood in the process of falling. It's just that this amount of blood is nothing. As soon as he turned around and landed firmly on the ground, he immediately drew out his sword and continued. Asshole! Jack the Drow never thought that he would be beaten and injured, and he roared angrily. I came here with a relaxed mood, just going through the motions, like I was on vacation, but when I saw someone destroying the important man-made devil fruit factory, I came to help. Unexpectedly, he, who had rarely been injured in battles all year round, almost had a piece of flesh ripped off his arm, and his anger suddenly rose. The ancient species devil fruit activates and transforms into an even larger mammoth form. How dare you hurt me? With his furious eyes full of mania, Jack raised his nose, which was coated with a layer of black visible to the naked eye. With a cry that ripped through the air, he suddenly threw it at the blood shadow. It's good to get bigger. Sha-en, who noticed this scene through the blood shadow connection, smiled secretly. The blood shadow of Mamasagi stood in front of the giant elephant. He didn't dodge Jack's fierce attack at all, but quickly squatted down and made a sword-drawing gesture. The whistling sound was right in front of me, and the blood shadow suddenly disappeared in place. Jack was shocked, and his vision instantly lost its target. Immediately, a white light flashed across the fur behind Jack's eyes. The powerful sword energy penetrated the mammoth's skin and penetrated into the bone, very sharp. Jack didn't expect to be stabbed again after transforming, and it was still in pain, so he screamed immediately. A large amount of blood spattered from the wound, and the blood shadow cloak was rolled up, directly collecting all the more than 400 cc of blood. Who the hell are you guys? Jack roared and turned around, staring at the blood shadow with his bloodshot eyes. These cloaked people are really weird, they don't say a word, and hockey is extremely powerful, it is impossible not to have heard of it. However, Zuying still didn't say a word, and didn't mean to respond at all. Seeing this, Jack became even more angry, and ran towards him, tearing up all the obstacles along the way easily, trying to pounce on the blood shadow. But he wanted to continue fighting, and after collecting enough blood, the two blood shadows began to evacuate under Sha-en's order. Mamasagi blood shadow didn't even look at Jack, who was rushing towards him, and quickly rushed towards blood shadow of the T-Dolphin, forcing Torebel and the others away. Immediately, they stopped fighting completely, and the two blood shadows disappeared at the exit within a few jumps. The people of the Don Quixote family were stunned and stopped them for a long time. So it was so easy for them to leave. At that speed, it disappeared in the blink of an eye. But at this time, Jack, who was completely angry, regained his human form, and chased him out with red eyes, on a rampage. After all, the speed of the doll is a bit faster, and he hasn't lost his mind yet. Only then did Torebel and Diamante come to their senses, and quickly shouted to everyone, "Quick! Chase!" Although the speed of the two blood shadows was relatively fast, after the cadres of the Don Quixote family and Jack the Drow chased them out, they could still see their trails, and the two vague figures walked through the town quickly towards the periphery. "Don't let them go to the beach. Inform the others." Torrebel reacted quickly, and he hurried to follow. The town of Dressrosa Island is a basin, surrounded by towering rocks. There is still a chance to catch up with the cloaked man. And this time, on the other side. Shaw-En smiled and looked at Doflamingo, a half-old fox who was still persuading Momoshiki to return. "Having said so much, Momoshiki Vice Admiral is just to catch fugitives. I've finished my coffee, so go back. I'll hand it over to Marine if I catch someone." Momoshiki felt hee-hee upon hearing this. But at this time, Shaw-En said, "Sister Momoshiki, I want to go back to the boat and pee." "Hush, go back to the boat and pee." Doflamingo glanced at Shaw-En suspiciously, and then looked at the road to the port. "Is it necessary to go back so far to pee?" Momoshiki didn't think too much, nodded and was about to order the marine guards next to him, but thought about whether his task was to protect Shaw-En, or accompany him personally. Looking at Momoshiki, who was persuaded by himself not to move his butt for a long time, and turned around as soon as the kid wanted to pee, the more Doflamingo thought about it, the more he felt something was wrong. "Marine, what are you doing? And Momoshiki cares too much about Admiral's younger brother, right? Such a good relationship." Sensing some discord, Doflamingo sat there thinking and didn't move. But soon, hearing a lot of movement behind him, he turned his head and saw that it was Jack the Drow and his cadres rushing over in a hurry. "You guys, what's the matter?" Chapter 11. Dover. When Torrebel saw Doflamingo, his nose was flicking and there were several wounds on his body. The same is true for other cadres, and most of them have suffered bad luck. What surprised Doflamingo the most was that the gloomy Jack had been cut with sword marks. "The cloaked man. They've escaped. We've got him and they're gone." Drought's nostrils sprayed out a white stream of air. Obviously the annoyance in his heart didn't drop at all. "What?" Doflamingo's pupils shrank, and he looked at the black smoke coming out of the underground factory. His face was gloomy like dripping water, and his veins were bulging. "The man in the cloak destroyed the underground factory, wounded so many people and ran away. Where does this put his reputation as heavenly yaksha? Moreover, the drought of the beasts did not leave them behind but was injured by it. If it spreads, not only the business, but also the reputation will be damaged. They must be caught. Chasing. There is a port outside here, we can't let them abscond." Doflamingo gave an order immediately. "It doesn't matter if Marine is still there or not. Simply take Jack and his cadres and start searching." Not many times. Doflamingo and the others, who had already been unscrupulous and determined to catch the two cloaked men, searched to the port. At this time, Momoshiki on the warship held Kimpiro and quietly walked up to the bow, her eyes fixed on Doflamingo and the others. She saw the drought. "Is that what you're talking about? Just the audience?" Doflamingo. Even knowing his bad deeds, Momoshiki was still angry when he saw Shichibukai get together with 4 emperors as a marine. The original intention of Shichibukai was to deal with the 4 emperors. And Doflamingo didn't pay attention to Marine's majesty at all, and went so far as to search for blood shadows with the drought. With this sound of angry shouting and questioning. "Take." Behind Momoshiki, the marine soldiers pulled up their guns and drew their long swords. Seeing this, the people gathered on Doflamingo's side also reacted and confronted him. "Does she really dare to do it?" Seeing Momoshiki's serious expression, Doflamingo secretly thought with some headaches. If it were another vice admiral, I'm afraid they would be in a hurry to report instead of raising their guns. Of course, it's not because he's afraid, but because Marine is also involved, making things even more troublesome, and the cloaked man hasn't been found yet. Momoshiki. "Huh, who do you think Lousy is?" Drought was even more displeased with Marine's gaze and shouted loudly. He was hacked by the mysterious cloaked man just now, and now there is the annoying Marine. It's no wonder that Jack can hold his breath. Immediately, the smell of gunpowder on both sides became more and more intense. One side thinks that they won't be crazy enough to collude with the 4 emperors in front of Marine, while the other side thinks that they will put on a good show and dare not mess around. Doflamingo has a headache too. Etc., etc. Dover. This Momoshiki feels like one of the caped men. At this time, Torrebel came up again, shaking his nose. What? Feels like a cloaked man. Doflamingo frowned, but thought it couldn't be the same person. Before the underground black market exploded, Momoshiki and that Shaw-en were both together, sitting in front of him. You said that, I also noticed. This woman's aura is very similar to the cloaked man who cut me. Sensing Momoshiki's aura, Drought even made it clear, feeling very suspicious in his heart. Even saying that about Drought, Doflamingo's mind suddenly flashed. I felt something was wrong before, and I always felt weird. How did the Marine come to catch the prisoner by such a coincidence, and the factory sabotage happened after entering Dressrosa Island by such a coincidence? If it's not Momoshiki himself, the breath is close to someone who must be trained by Marine. So Doflamingo immediately stood up and asked sharply, those two cloaked men are not fugitives at all. Momoshiki, you better tell the truth, are they from your Marine? How dare you get involved with Marine just by breath? Momoshiki was a little surprised, but remained calm on the surface, accusing angrily, Heavenly Yaksha. I formally warn you, it's best not to talk nonsense without evidence. Now you broke the rules. Shichibukai was mixed up with the beast's pirates Drought, I will report this to Naval Headquarters. After speaking, Momoshiki directly ordered to return to the voyage, with an angry and annoyed expression. She knew that Drought was not easy here, and Blood Shadow had already completed the task of destroying the factory, so she could set off to go back. Shaw-en's first task was successfully completed. Anyway, there is no evidence about the Blood Shadow to prove that it is Marine. Afterwards, Doflamingo can only suffer from being dumb. But Doflamingo has long been suspicious, and the loss is too great, he can't wait to kill the cloaked man. Seeing that Momoshiki is leaving now, how can it be easy to let her really drive away? Little ones, stop them. Today I want to see if you destroyed my factory. Doflamingo gave the order immediately with a dark face. Hula hula, a large group of Dressrosa's people immediately surrounded them, and even sailed to block the warship from leaving the port. Alternate Admiral's ship is doing it too, do you know what you're doing? Momoshiki turned to face Doflamingo. His face was not angry, but his eyes were full of danger. Brazenly blocking Marine's ship, and looking like he wanted to search, Doflamingo really thinks that Marine is afraid to do it. Doflamingo sneered and said, Admiral has to stay today to make it clear. Not ashamed, Momoshiki decisively pulled out the phone bug and wanted to notify Naval Headquarters. Colluding with the four emperors and attacking the Marine candidate Admiral is equivalent to rebelling against the world government. Of course, Doflamingo would not just look at it stupidly, and move his 5 fingers cunningly, and directly wants to use string fruit to attack the phone bug. As long as today's affairs are calmed down and Naval Headquarters is not allowed to react immediately, even if Momoshiki is injured, it will be fine. Just when the invisible thread is about to destroy the phone bug. Suddenly, Doflamingo felt a panic coming from behind. Dangerous. He immediately gave up the attack, turned around and pulled a ball of thread to block it. Ding! A common standard longsword is covered with hockey, slashing and sparkling in silk threads. And it was one of the 2 cloaked men who made the shot. And another one seems to appear not far away. One tall and one short cloaked man. Doflamingo flashed joy when he saw his appearance. Then he turned around and yelled at Momoshiki on the warship, how dare you say it has nothing to do with Marine? Doflamingo's perception is still slow now. At this moment, the Blood Shadow of the Cloak and Momoshiki are both on the scene. It is almost difficult to distinguish the same breath, and there must be a connection. While talking, because the Blood Shadow had already attacked Doflamingo, the cadres of the Don Quixote family rushed up and fought the 2 Blood Shadows. Kill them. Drought raised his eyebrows and raised his eyebrows. When he saw the shadow of blood, he rushed towards him furiously. Immediately, the T-Dolphin Blood Shadow blade was coated with a layer of black, and rushed over without hesitation to block a group of people, and the 2 sides fought again. The edge of the port became chaotic in an instant, and there was a Blood Shadow attack. Momoshiki also gave up using the phone bug, and watched the Blood Shadow fighting the pirates in surprise. What's the situation? There is no plan to attack Doflamingo. In fact, Momoshiki doesn't mind Doflamingo making a move, so there is an excuse to deal with him when the notification goes up, but if the Blood Shadow makes a move, Doflamingo may take the opportunity to bite back, and then report it up and let it go. But Shaw-en made a move, so the Blood Shadow could only fight. In the end, everyone refused to recognize each other. And Doflamingo on the opposite side thought the same way, and was angry that Marine destroyed his factory in such a way. Right now, he has already made a move with the cloaked man, so he swung out 5 color strings in an instant, and he also made a move against the blood shadow of Momoshiki. Today is not only about taking down the cloaked men, but also teaching these Marines a good lesson afterwards. It's best not to let me know who these cloaked men are. This is Brother Ming's idea. The blood shadow of Momoshiki didn't care about the battle behind the blood shadow of the T-Dolphin, and went straight to Doflamingo. With a bang, the sharp sword energy directly split the 5 color strings, and immediately stepped into the air with one step. Yubu rushed towards Doflamingo. Hey, don't you dare to reveal your identity. Doflamingo turned around, staring resentfully at the flying blood shadow. It was these 2 guys who destroyed their most important smile factory. The silk threads turned into bullets in his hands, shooting at the flying Momoshiki blood shadow continuously, comparable to real firearms. But the blood shadow held the long sword in his hand and slashed and crossed, each time he missed Doflamingo's string bullet. After approaching, a sword light was drawn out, cutting the ground into a gully. It was Doflamingo's first fight with blood shadow, and he didn't expect that his shots would be so fierce, far surpassing most of the swordsmen he had seen. Immediately pounce on it with a wave, which is enough to block the sword light. Amidst the large amount of dust stirred up, Doflamingo advanced instead of retreating, completely entangled with the blood shadow, and fought in close combat. Both of them were very proficient in their knowledge and weapons, and they fought especially fiercely. The sound of booming came out continuously, and the impact of the battle between the 2 even surpassed that of Drought and Blood Shadow. Heavenly Yaksha's strength is even stronger than before. Momoshiki knew that Doflamingo was very powerful, but he didn't expect that it would be difficult to deal with. His own shadow might not be able to take him down in a short time. In the current confrontation, neither Blood Shadow nor him can do anything to anyone. On the other hand, the T-Dolphin blood shadow is not so relaxed. After all, before the Drought was singled out by Momoshiki blood shadow, now he is a cadre who fights against the Drought plus the Don Quixote family, and he is powerless and obviously unable to support himself. The Drought is severe, and the attack after turning into a mammoth can even shake the blood shadow. Every time the attack falls, the ground is hammered and collapsed a little. In addition, the blood shadow of the T-Dolphin will be targeted by Torebel and others every time he changes moves on the ground, and he will be hit twice from time to time. Especially Gladius, holding the explosive booger in his hand, kept throwing it at the blood shadow, causing explosion damage and interference at the same time. However, the attacks from these people were not enough for Zhuiying to endure. But the Drought did not have the patience to slowly wear away. The transformed mammoth raised its head and roared, and then took advantage of the moment when the blood shadow was affected by the explosion, and violently smashed down its long trunk covered in armed colors. He was particularly unhappy when Momoshiki's blood shadow blocked this move before, but now his power increased dramatically. Bang! The dust impact spread and hit Shui Ying's body. Everyone in the Don Quixote family was overjoyed by the powerful force that made a big hole in the ground. With such a heavy attack, the cloaked man will definitely not be able to recover. Drought persevered and continued to smash with his footprints. As a result, the blood shadow rushed out of the pit and dust and stopped on the side. It can be seen that his arm has been injured, and scarlet blood is stained on the cloak-shaped sleeves, and it is spreading continuously. Blood shadow is bleeding. Momoshiki stood on the warship, paying attention to the battle, and was shocked when he saw the blood shadow. Facing one of the 3 major Droughts and so many Shichibukai cadres, it was still a bit reluctant, and the alternate admiral was no exception. Immediately, Jinbaluo was about to unsheath himself and wanted to help. Because Sha-En told her that blood shadows can also be injured and bleed, and if they bleed dry, they will die and disappear. But at the moment, Momoshiki has no reason to take action. He previously called Blood Shadow a criminal and has not officially broken up with Doflamingo. If it really goes up, it will be exposed, and Doflamingo will find trouble with Marine, but she has no control over Doflamingo's energy. Therefore, Momoshiki held the knife hesitantly. But the battle does not follow Momoshiki's thoughts and the opponent will show mercy. The Drought on the other side wounded the T-Dolphin blood shadow, which can be described as violent and ferocious. Doflamingo had no intention of stalling for time, and was striving to capture the cloaked man in the shortest possible time to vent his anger. Do you really think you can leave today without speaking and pretending to be mute? Do you know how important the factory is to me? Doflamingo's anger level was higher than that of Drought, and he immediately attacked the Blood Shadow without reservation. String Fruit's ability has undergone a qualitative change under its full strength. Momoshiki was shocked when he saw this. This guy has actually awakened his ability. Starting from the feet of Doflamingo, the String Fruit trait has affected and assimilated the surrounding matter, including the earth. The vast expanse of white spread quickly. Even the Blood Shadow was aware of the danger, and the movement he was about to attack changed, and he opened the distance and slashed at him with sword light continuously. The sword light pierced the air and struck the white line on the ground, and sparks appeared. Ha! Save it! It's too late for you to surrender now. With crazy energy, Doflamingo moved his hand, and the ground, which was assimilated into lines, surged like a wave, directly submerging the sword light and swallowing it up. Such a big movement attracted everyone's attention. The marine soldiers couldn't help but feel a little scared when they saw the strange scene, while Torebel and others laughed when they saw Brother Ming's explosion. Swallow him up. Go to hell. Giant waves and white lines. Doflamingo's power exploded, and the ground that turned into a white line suddenly turned into a big wave on the ocean, slamming towards Momoshiki's Blood Shadow with great momentum. Most of the entire port has become the domain of String Fruit. If you look at it from the position of the Blood Shadow, all you can see is a surging wave of white lines. The Blood Shadow transformed from Momoshiki's blood reacted immediately, moving quickly to avoid being caught in the white line under his feet. But facing the huge white line, there is still no way to avoid it. These waves hit, and each time they turned into white fang spikes and attacked endlessly, one wave after another. Zuiying clenched the long sword in his hand, armament hockey wrapped around the wavy soccer a red special effect, and resisted one sword after another. Boom, boom. Under the dense and sonorous dull clashing sound, Momoshiki's Blood Shadow Festival retreated step by step, and for a time it could withstand the continuous impact of the endless waves. Bah! How can you resist now? The rat hiding under the cloak. Doflamingo mastered the power of awakening and was very excited during the attack. His fingers twisted erratically, driving the white line to attack continuously. Blood Shadow found the opportunity, jumped up, and tried to rush out of the area covered by the white line wave. But at this time, Doflamingo was not in a hurry, pointed at the Blood Shadow, and the white fang spikes rising from the ground intercepted him from all directions. Bang bang bang. The Blood Shadow blocked in the air with his sword, and was restrained by the white line again. Even if he took the opportunity to stay away from the wave, he was still attacked by the white fang spikes. Doflamingo's awakening ability is so difficult. Momoshiki gritted his teeth, looking frightened. Seeing the Blood Shadow falling into a situation of continuous white lines, my heart couldn't help but become solemn. It would be no problem if Blood Shadow's strength is only to deal with Doflamingo. After all, he has 100% strength of his own, but the Blood Shadow of T-Dolphin is still being beaten at this moment. However, at this time, the situation of Momoshiki's Blood Shadow also declined sharply. A bang! The ordinary standard long sword in Blood Shadow's hand blocked the wave of white lines and continued to withstand Doflamingo's attacks. Finally, it couldn't hold on and broke. The figure shrouded in a cloak was pushed back by the subsequent wave of white lines, and finally stopped when it landed on a rock in the distance. No, the sword is broken. Two bloody shadows fight Doflamingo's group and Drought, still reluctantly. Momoshiki suddenly became anxious. The long sword in Blood Shadow's hand is just an ordinary standard long sword. Even if it is covered by armament hockey, it cannot withstand such continuous attacks. Without a long sword in hand, the swordsmanship inherited from oneself cannot be used, and defeat is certain. God kills. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Doflamingo will of course not miss it and directly launch his powerful moves. In his somewhat ferocious, weird smile, the string fruit under his feet spread, and several white lines emerged from the shield, rising up from the ground, aiming at the Blood Shadow like a living creature and stabbing it. These white lines are covered with armament hockey, with black tips, whizzing down, extremely fast and surrounded from all sides, whizzing down on the Blood Shadow. There is no way to avoid it. If he was really hit, Momoshiki knew that his haki might not be intact, and it would be too late to rescue him, so he could only watch the bloody shadow being hit. Just at this time, suddenly, Doflamingo's movements stopped and his expression changed drastically. He sensed danger coming from behind. Someone stepped into the area covered by the white line and rushed toward him. Immediately, Doflamingo didn't even hesitate, gave up attacking Momoshiki Blood Shadow, and quickly dodged to the side. Between the electric Hanabi stones, a sword light flashed. Bring out the blood on Doflamingo's arms. Before he could stand still on the ground, he noticed that his arm was injured and bleeding. Doflamingo's lungs were about to explode. When he looked back, he saw that it was another man in a cloak. And the cloaked man looks incredibly tall. The third cloaked man. It seems that you have been ambushed here. After standing firm, the surprised Doflamingo did not forget to look at Momoshiki. Now, he is more certain about the relationship between the cloaked man and Marine. Otherwise, how could it be such a coincidence? Drought and the cadres of the Don Quixote family saw Doflamingo injured and were a little shocked to see another cloaked man. Dover, little lord, why do you still have companions? Both of them are so difficult to deal with. Wouldn't the other one run away from them? We must resolve this quickly. Torvald, Diamante and others' expressions changed, their eyes darkened, and they were shocked by the sudden appearance of the cloaked man who shot back and injured Doflamingo. Because the momentum of the three cloaked men is very strong. Now one cloaked man stopped so many of them, and if there was one more, one could imagine how much the battle situation would tilt. How could it be? Another blood shadow. Even Momoshiki on the warship was surprised and thought to himself. She didn't notice the arrival of the third blood shadow at first, and didn't react until the moment she took action. Hey, this figure. By the way, Shaen said that it can create 3 blood shadows. This is the third one. Looking at this figure, could it be Drought? Momoshiki observed the unusually tall blood shadows on the field. Knowing that the blood shadows all copied the opponent's body shape, he immediately guessed what was going on. I just didn't expect that Shaen would collect enough blood while fighting Drought with blood shadow. Thinking of this, Momoshiki felt like laughing. This little kid is quite capable. The situation has finally gotten better now. One can indeed imagine what it would be like to have combat power equal to that of Drought. I saw that the third blood shadow after the end did not pursue Doflamingo, but took out another brand new long sword from his body and threw it to the Momoshiki blood shadow. Immediately, the huge body, shrouded in a cloak, rushed towards Doflamingo. Jack the Drow uses a pair of scythe-like weapons, so Blood Shadow is a 100% replica of him, and he will naturally also use a pair of swords, which he wields with great ferocity. The wave of white lines that Doflamingo assimilated faced the tall Blood Shadow coming in close combat and immediately drove several spikes towards it. Dang Dang collided with the 2 swords, and sparks flew everywhere. And with the long sword in hand, Momoshiki's Blood Shadow was not idle, launching a double team on Doflamingo from behind. Hateful. When the cold shadow came, Doflamingo's forehead was dripping with sweat. He was distracted and used the string fruit ability on both sides at the same time to block it from the white line of the shield. The Drought Blood Shadow and the Momoshiki Blood Shadow are not comparable to those of the pirate group. They can deal with them easily alone, but when they join forces, Doflamingo feels how difficult it is. As soon as the 2 sides fought, they immediately became irresistible. Momoshiki Blood Shadow's sword is too fast and too sharp. Doflamingo was distracted and couldn't resist at all, and from time to time he would be struck with sword light. And the offensive of Drought Blood Shadow on the other side is even heavier. The sword fell with such force that it easily blocked the white line of the shield and kept approaching. Doflamingo couldn't help but become anxious when he saw this. He quickly looked towards the warship and shouted, "Marine! Aren't these the criminals you were chasing? Why don't you take action?" Unexpectedly, Momoshiki didn't seem to hear him when he called for the first time. Instead, he frowned slightly and watched the battle between Drought and others in the distance. "Aren't you arresting the prisoner? The prisoner is right here." Doflamingo was also helpless. Torvald and Drought wanted to kill the cloaked man as much as possible, and they had no time to take care of this side for a while. "But I am under a lot of pressure, and if I am overwhelmed, it will be difficult to get away once I get close. Doflamingo, this is your Shichibukai territory. It's not convenient for me to take action." Momosuke slowly uttered a sentence at this moment, his face expressionless and cold. His arrogance has not been forgotten. Now that the pressure is on you, you are asking for help. Doflamingo was furious, his expression twisted with anger, and he wanted to curse. Momosuke Blood Shadow and Drought Blood Shadow immediately seized this good opportunity, their swords drew a perfect arc, and slashed straight towards Doflamingo's body. At the critical moment, Brother Ming blocked himself with a white thread, but he still did it in a hurry, unable to withstand Momosuke's already prepared move. The force of the long sword, like the waves of flowing water, passed through the white line barrier and hit Doflamingo's body. He immediately spit out a mouthful of blood and smashed his body towards the rocky mountain. With a roar, Doflamingo smashed into a large piece of rock, causing dust to fly everywhere. Immediately, Momosuke Blood Shadow and Drought Blood Shadow didn't stop at all, chasing after them. Facing the two cloaked men chasing after him, Doflamingo had just stood up, but at this moment, the two Blood Shadows suddenly came closer and began to seamlessly connect powerful attacks. Beside these yellow-brown rocky mountains, there were constant rumbling sounds, the ground shook, and dust billowed, making a huge noise. The cadres of the Don Quixote family were very horrified to see their boss being besieged like this. Little Lord, Dover, Diamante, Rauji, Torapal and others were stunned, fearing that Doflamingo really couldn't handle it, so they immediately gave up this side and wanted to support. As soon as they turned around, the blood-stained figure of the T-Dolphin, whose cloak was already stained with blood, rushed directly towards them, blocking their way and intercepting them. Asshole, we'll deal with you later. Get out of the way. Torbal yelled strangely, anxiously looking at Doflamingo who was struggling. At this time, the T-Dolphin Blood Shadow insisted on stopping Torapal and the others, but Drought found an opportunity. It rushed over in the form of a mammoth, leaping high with its two forelimbs, and was about to crush the Blood Shadow. Suddenly, a long sword with a white handle, wrapped around a flowing wave of armed color, rose up in the sky, blocking the stampede of Drought. With a roar, Hanbon found that although he was pressing down, the figure that appeared under his feet could not completely crush him. Looking again, the person who took action was actually Momosuke on the warship. HMPH, the core member of Beast's Pirates, Drought Ember. Are you going to surrender, or will I beat you to the ground? Momosuke held Goldpyra in his hand and said coldly, holding up a long knife to steadily block an elephant's leg. Who do you think I am? Marine. Drought looked fiercely and used more strength. But Momosuke's momentum also became stronger and he blocked it with all his strength. The Four Emperors pirate group is the primary target of attack. After blocking the danger of lifting the Blood Shadow, Momosuke was not stupid enough to continue competing with the ancient ability user and moved out of the way. Boom! The Drought dented the ground, and then angrily raised its long nose and threw it at Momosuke. The elephant's trunk is a first-rate attack weapon. Momosuke was not careless and retreated again. After landing firmly, he disappeared and appeared directly above the Drought, and the slash followed. Drought roared and resisted Haki with his body. On the other side, Doflamingo saw this situation and shouted angrily. They also said that these three guys have nothing to do with Marine. Doflamingo didn't understand that he was really stupid, but unfortunately, he could only shout to vent his anger, and there was no way to attack behind him. Of course, Momosuke's words fell on deaf ears. Smiling secretly in his heart, there is nothing wrong with attacking the Four Emperors pirates according to their priority. Go to hell. When Drought collides with Momosuke, even more sparks hit the earth, making it look angry. In the mammoth form, he is like the king of destruction, with his kicks creating pits, and his long nose curling up to attract strong winds, and he fights Momosuke fiercely. Against a level like Drought, it was difficult for Momosuke to restrain his strength and fight slowly, so he simply used all his strength, and his swordsmanship was particularly sharp. You can see the sword light shining on the field, and the slash landed on Jack the Dro's body, making him howl. Under the painful Drought, he even transformed into a human and animal form. The elephant is as long as a human body and has his strange scythe weapon held in both hands, and it collides fiercely with Momosuke. Far inferior to Momosuke in terms of skill, he was slashed by Chimera multiple times, even cutting under his fur to bring out the bloodline. He didn't pay much attention to these minor injuries, but the more he fought, the more Drought he discovered that something was wrong, and he was gradually shocked. Why is her swordsmanship exactly the same as that of the cloaked man? Drought particularly clearly remembered the cloaked man who had slashed him twice. His eyes couldn't help but look at the blood shadow on Doflamingo's side, and he was even more sure, and his heart was greatly shocked. Same. It's really the same. Sword skills, breath, and even body skills are the same. How can this be? It's impossible for two people in the world to have exactly the same aura and moves. The other side. Doflamingo fought fiercely with Momoshiki Blood Shadow and Drought Blood Shadow, and was able to barely parry their attacks. Even though he was burning with anger, he did not dare to be careless in the slightest, and drove the white line to block the fierce attack of the two cloaked men. At this time, observing the three-party battle, it can be seen that the fierce duel has destroyed the entire port and even affected the town. It's like Drought running rampant against Momoshiki's slashes, like the Don Quixote family's leaders flying around with their abilities, besieging the T-Dolphin Blood Shadow. Coupled with Brother Ming's own destructive power, the town has been seriously affected. When Doflamingo noticed it, he couldn't help but want to retreat. We can't continue to fight, the losses are too great. The Smile Factory still needs to be re-established and needs the continued support of the kingdom's heritage. Once Smile is lost, Doflamingo's agency business will be ruined, and it is now impossible to take down the cloaked man. After careful consideration, Doflamingo shouted to Momoshiki without hesitation, "I admit defeat this time. Let them stop." It was also when this sentence blurted out. Sha-en, who was hiding inside the warship and observing the outside through the small round window, smiled slightly. The system prompt sounded almost at the same time. Ding! The master successfully created a captain-level pirate Death Warrior, and used the Death Warrior to defeat Shichibukai and above. Obtain the 4th Death Soldier slot and remove the cooldown of the 1st Death Soldier. Ding! System mission released. 1. Create a Death Warrior of Shichibukai level or above. 2. Defeat characters above Admiral level by using dead soldiers. 3. Use dead soldiers to seize the territory of any 4 Emperors group. Complete the mission rewards to obtain. 1. The 5th Dead Soldier quota. 2. Remove the cooling time of the 2nd Dead Man. 3. 1 chance to replace the number of dead soldiers. It's getting really difficult. Sha-en looked at the tasks issued by the system carefully and couldn't help but sigh. The last one was Shichibukai, and the next one is Admiral level. You must know that defeating Admiral level characters is not that simple. Every Admiral level person is said to have the highest combat power in Marine. Not to mention seizing the territory of 4 emperors, tisk, I can only say that it is becoming more and more pervert. But the difficulty is also linked to the reward. Adding a quota, and removing the resurrection cooldown is equivalent to immortality. The most important thing is that you can replace the dead soldier quota without waiting for a month. It would be interesting if the immortal warriors were replaced by Admiral level beings. We could directly compete head-on with the 4 emperors. Sha-en can imagine that one of the 3 blood shadows of Drought, Momoshiki, and T-Dolphin will be replaced by Admiral or even a more awesome character. Then the blood shadow lineup in your hand will be further improved. And it's a huge improvement. It's difficult. The current situation doesn't seem like there's no chance. Thinking of this, Sha-en couldn't help but laugh out loud. And at this time, outside, the fighting continued. Doflamingo shouted to admit defeat and wanted to end this farce. But how could Momoshiki admit it? And at this time, Blood Shadow had just turned the tide of the battle, and it would be too cheap for Doflamingo to end the battle. So during the fight with Drought, Momoshiki turned around and pretended to be dumbfounded. "I don't know these 3 cloaked men." After Doflamingo heard this sentence while dealing with the battle in a hurry, his veins slowly bulged with anger. He has determined that these cloaked men are related to Marine. As a result, before he could curse, the Don Quixote family and others suddenly let out an exclamation. What is this? It turns out that even though the T-Dolphin Blood Shadow, which consumes a lot of money, is strong, it can still resist the people of Torbal, but it gradually cannot take care of everything. After all, there was a large number of people. Attacks came one after another. The body of the T-Dolphin Blood Shadow was covered with an armed protective cloak, but it was still broken open by the joint efforts of Rao Ji, Saroni and others. The clothes were torn apart, and the burnt blackness from the exploding fruit still remained. Everyone including Doflamingo, Drought, Momosuge and others who looked back at the past saw a large piece of the blood shadow body of the T-Pig blood shadow. The shoulders, head, and back are all exposed to the gaze. The body, which is blood red to purple and black, and the outline of the clothes inside are all the same, with a smooth surface. This is not a human body at all. You could tell it just by looking at it, Diamante shouted in surprise. What the hell is this? Is it Devil Fruit's ability? No, it can't be. The same goes for the head, the whole body is the same color. It looks a bit weird, the color is just like blood. Torebel, Raoji and others did not dare to attack easily. They stared at their pupils with shaking eyes, cautious and shocked. After fighting for a long time, the result was that the body under the cloak was in this condition. Doflamingo looked at it carefully, and then said in surprise, "No, this cloaked man is weird, he even looks like a T-dolphin." Oops, most of the blood shadow body was exposed, and Momosuge's expression changed drastically. Looking at Doflamingo's expression, he must have noticed something, and his expression changed. After all, at this time, the blood shadow of the T-dolphin has already exposed most of its face and body shape, which is no different from being completely exposed, just a few rags on its body. In addition, T-dolphins are different from Momosuge. Momosuge usually use beauty to seduce and collect information, and dress up to disguise themselves. The T-dolphin is a prodigal son. He has the experience of lingering in the Golden Emperor's entertainment city and Doflamingo's entertainment venues. Doflamingo is naturally familiar, so at first glance, you can recognize that it looks very similar to the T-dolphin. How could this be? Could it be? Even with his knowledge, he couldn't help but be stunned for a moment, and then turned his eyes to the other two cloaked men. With the same aura, and the exposed figure of the T-dolphin's blood shadow, Doflamingo already had some unbelievable guess in his mind. Immediately, Doflamingo withstood the fierce attack of the blood shadow and exploded with astonishing power fluctuations. 16 rounds of holy bullets, God's killing. The most powerful move under the awakening ability, Doflamingo used it without hesitation. The 10-6 paths sitting on the ground are wrapped with huge waves of high-density armed colors. The white thread is no longer pure white, but black and purple. Lifting into the air and turning an arc, he immediately headed towards Momosuge's blood shadow, and the drought blood shadow fell down. The terrifying power makes people shudder when they see it. It is completely incomparable to the previous awakening moves. Although Momosuge blood shadow and drought blood shadow are among the strongest, it is not a problem to block Mingji's ultimate move at this moment. But it is difficult to ensure that you are not injured in a confrontation. The strong haki creates a lightning effect, exploding at the point where the two sides collide. It can be seen that the Momosuge blood shadow and the drought blood shadow all retreated under the impact of Doflamingo's full force, and the ordinary long sword made a clanking sound. As sparks flew everywhere, Doflamingo's eyes narrowed and he burst out with even greater momentum. The feet of the two blood shadows collapsed instantly, forming a circular collapse. What made Momosuge grit his teeth the most was that the two blood shadows worked together to block the gods' killing, but the cloaks on their bodies couldn't bear it. Armament haki shrank to the skin range, and the cloak on his body was instantly torn with strong force, revealing the true body of the blood shadow. Instantly, the main attacker, Doflamingo, the Don Quixote family cadres, and Jack the Drow were all stunned. The trembling eyes meant that they were extremely shocked. The blood shadow in front of me is clearly Momosuge, looking like a drought. The only difference is that they don't have normal human skin, they look like blood-red versions of Momosuge, drought. Even the clothes on his body were like this, and everyone present was stunned. What is going on? How? Two Momosuge, two Jacks. Torapal, Diamante, Raoji and others looked at this with sweat on their foreheads and were at a loss. Drought even looked at the blood shadow that was the same as his own, his pupils were shaking. No wonder I feel so familiar. Immediately he became furious again, feeling that it was an insult to himself. After fighting for so long, the person under the cloak turned out to be like this. Then he is really a T-dolphin. Doflamingo was greatly surprised, glared at Momosuge himself, pointed at the T-dolphin blood shadow and yelled. There was no need to cover up anymore. T-dolphin Zuiying tore the tattered cloak, completely revealing his true body. Momosuge, what's going on? You have to give me an explanation. Two Momosuge, Drought, and even a T-dolphin? Doflamingo questioned again. As soon as the blood shadow revealed its true form, the whole fight came to a brief pause. The pirates all looked at Momoshiki and asked her to give an explanation. After all, Doflamingo Shichibukai and his status as king are still there. Momoshiki also had a headache and was debating whether and how to respond. Who would have expected this? Jack the Drow actually seized the opportunity to temporarily stop and launch an attack suddenly. The sprint in the human animal form was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, the sickle-like weapon was slashing at the blood shadow of the T-dolphin in a sneak attack. The Don Quixote family may have noticed Drought's actions long ago and would not have warned them, but Momoshiki did not realize that Drought was about to attack. I watched helplessly as the Drought opened a big hole in T-dolphin Zhuiying's back. The blood shadow immediately poured out a large amount of blood after its surface was peeled off. The blood fell to the ground like the air, supporting its body, and it itself shrank quickly like a shriveled balloon, and finally disappeared. Seeing such a strange scene, Doflamingo's group and Drought were stunned and looked surprised. Momoshiki secretly thought, oops, Blood Shadow was actually attacked by him. Without a large force, the situation will change again. Now that Doflamingo has seen the Blood Shadow's normal form, he will definitely not let it go easily, and will even take action against Marine. Withdraw. Thinking of this, Momoshiki decided to retreat, and staying for a long time was not good. But Doflamingo had long paid attention to Momoshiki's expression. Seeing her expression, he was completely convinced that the Blood Shadow belonged to Marine. Seeing that she wanted to retreat to the warship, he immediately stopped her. The white lines of the high-density armament hockey whizzed like a lion majesty biting towards Momoshiki. Doflamingo, are you going to attack Marine? Momoshiki scolded coquettishly, wrapping the golden pila in his hand around the weapon, blocking the bullet. But he was also stopped. Shoo shoo. The two figures also quickly landed beside Momoshiki, holding their weapons at Doflamingo's group. Ha! And now you have no way of denying it, Momoshiki, these cloaked men are all members of your Marine Corps. Even if they beat you down, the world government can't do anything. You must give me an explanation today, otherwise you are not allowed to leave. Doflamingo said fiercely that he had no scruples anymore, and the ferocity on his face was even more frightening. In an instant, Torrebel, Rauji, Diamante and other cadres who reacted, as well as Drought, blocked up, giving Momoshiki no chance to escape. Hateful. Momoshiki suddenly became very nervous. She clearly sensed Doflamingo's naked malice. I'm afraid he wouldn't have any scruples if he died here today, and he wouldn't even care if he was crazy. It is even more difficult to leave safely now, not to mention that there are warships behind her. And she knows that Sha-En only has 3 blood shadows, and Marine's combat power is all here. That's right, Sha-En. Nothing can happen to him. Momoshiki didn't think about his own safety, but how to get Sha-En to escape safely. It seems that you are not cooperating. Doflamingo sneered and pressed Momoshiki step by step. The white line of the huge wave rose, full of pressure. Suddenly, at this moment, a childish voice came from the warship. Okay, this blood shadow is my ability. Explain. Sha-En stood up and gave Doflamingo an explanation. Yes, this is my ability. Sha-En, don't come out. Momoshiki was startled, and his face changed drastically and he jumped onto the warship. Sha-En actually came out to explain herself. At the same time, stand up at this time, who knows if that lunatic Doflamingo will directly attack Sha-En. Sha-En must be protected. Everyone, take the time to set sail and leave. Immediately, Momoshiki growled lowly, seeing the surprised and terrified Marine soldiers on the warship. And at this time, Doflamingo, Drought, and the cadres all frowned at Sha-En, and said in shock, your ability. This seemingly young guy actually possesses such a weird ability. No wonder wearing marine clothes. This kind of weird existence can only be created by ability. Thinking of the scene where the blood shadow was broken and then disappeared, Doflamingo thought to himself. I can't help but believe it a little bit more. But after thinking about it, this kid's ability is really a bit pervert. Those cloaked men who are so strong are all controlled by you. Can you use your abilities well at a young age? It's terrible. Young master, this kid can't be let go. Momoshiki, T-dolphins, replicas of Drought, each of them is so powerful, doesn't it mean that he controls 3 awesome and powerful people in his hands? The cadres spoke out one after another, and the Drought stared at Sha-en intently. It was only then that Drought realized that he had been cut off with so much blood, and was even copied into the same guy. He is the capable person behind the scenes. It's a bit of a heaven-defying ability, if his ability is used by me. Doflamingo's eyes flashed brightly, he thought to himself, and then burst out laughing. Knowing this result, she was surprised but also dared not to think that Sha-en was still the same little brat as before. Then he said to Sha-en, I have already noticed that something is wrong with you. Little ones, make sure to take down this kid. You must teach me a lesson. Kizaru's younger brother. So what? Doflamingo wanted everyone to make a move and waved, but he kept sneering in his heart. The lesson is just a theory. In fact, he was eyeing Sha-en's ability, and he was able to create a replica that was almost identical to the original owner. It is necessary to get some blood for Guy to study the blood factor and see if he can make some articles. Are you crazy? Doflamingo. Sha-en is Kizaru Admiral's younger brother. Marine's Rear Admiral. Seeing this, Momoshiki couldn't help being anxious, emphasizing Sha-en's background, trying to make Doflamingo have some scruples. However, at this time, Doflamingo had clear evidence that Marine invaded his territory first, so he would not hesitate. He even sneered disapprovingly. Marine is a fart. In the eyes of his noble blood, all human beings are humble, and Marine is no exception. Seeing that Doflamingo and his gang were going to fight, Sha-en didn't pay attention to Marine at all, and laughed immediately. Teach me a lesson. Yes, but you have to ask my brother first. Without any panic, Sha-en even said these words with great interest. Drought still had a look of disdain, and he didn't pay attention to this little kid Sha-en during the whole process. Knowing that his ability is so special, he was astonished as if he had captured him alive. Doflamingo laughed even more when he heard this. A child is a child. Admiral is terrible, but how can the highest combat power in Marineford stop what is happening here? So he didn't take it to heart at all. But in the next scene, Doflamingo's laughter stopped abruptly, and he froze. Because at this time, in the shocked eyes of everyone, a blood shadow appeared. Its body is also pure blood red, but the tall figure, together with the imagery produced by the pair of toad glasses, made the pirates present no longer proud. Even Momoshiki and Marine soldiers were dumbfounded. Porisalino Admiral. This blood shadow is exactly Kizaru's replica blood shadow. Kizaru. The Don Quixote family's cadre pirates were even frightened by the Drought. No one thought that Sha-en actually had this trump card, he actually had a replica of Admiral. My ability is to create blood shadows. It's normal to have my brother's blood shadow. Sha-en's immature body is clasped with her hands behind her back, and her expression is extremely relaxed and confident. But everyone present was shocked. They looked at Kizaru's blood shadow and were speechless. Fortunately, the 4th spot was unlocked. Just before leaving, Brother Kizaru gave me his own blood as a trump card. HMPH, I can't cure you now. Sha-en thought in her heart, maintaining her appearance on the surface. I have to say that Kizaru was a big help. Sha-en also planned to create Admiral combat power once it was unlocked. It just so happened that he also completed the new task of creating a blood shadow of Shichibukai level and above. The blood shadow created by that guy can reproduce almost complete strength. Admiral, he actually controls Admiral. After reacting, Doflamingo's group's expressions changed drastically and they no longer dared to act rashly. Just kidding, Marine's highest combat power, especially the 3 of Kizaru Akainu Aokiji, are known as Logia, a natural disaster, which is very scary. Momoshiki was not far from Kizaru's blood shadow, and she was equally shocked now. Even she didn't expect that Sha-en still had such a hand. Didn't you say that we can only make 3? This kid, I'm worried to death. Momoshiki also breathed a sigh of relief. Blood shadow's strength is 100% reproduced. Now you don't have to worry about being embarrassed by Doflamingo. Aren't you going to teach me a lesson? My brother's shadow is the same, why don't you ask? Seeing the silence of Doflamingo and others, Sha-en chuckled. But Brother Ming and others were shocked, but they didn't dare to take action directly. Momoshiki also sarcastically said, didn't you say that Marine is nothing? Heavenly Yaksha. You. Being stared at by the blood shadow of Kizaru, they were too angry to say anything. Doflamingo and the others gritted their teeth. Being mocked by the children and Momoshiki, their eyes were filled with fire. Seeing the suffocating expressions of Doflamingo's group, Momoshiki couldn't help but curl up the corners of his mouth and smiled charmingly, feeling completely relieved. Let's go back. Doflamingo's group did not dare to move anymore, and Momoshiki did not bother to say anything more, and immediately ordered the sails to set sail. Seeing the warship really slowly moving, Doflamingo was very confused. To move or not to move? If you miss it next time, you won't have much chance to take action, but Kizaru's name and strength are a big stone in your heart. If Blood Shadow really shows his 100% strength, he will give Marine a reason to take action. With Kizaru's strength, no one can stop him. But at this time, Doflamingo and others did not dare to move, but Jack the Drow, a reckless man, refused to accept it and wanted to take action. So what about Admiral? I don't believe your Blood Shadow can have Admiral's strength. As he said this, Sha-En in human animal form actually rushed towards the bow of the boat. This child is the core of grasping the strange figure, and the intention of the drought is very simple, which is to keep Sha-En. Jack. Doflamingo's eyes darkened, and he hoped that Jack could test out the depth of Kizaru's Blood Shadow. At this time, Momoshiki raised Kinpira to block the drought, but he didn't react yet. A red light flashed, and the figure of Kizaru's Blood Shadow instantly appeared next to Drought in midair. His slender legs had been raised half a circle, and his index finger and thumb were placed on his chin to caress. Have you ever seen the speed of light? Zhuiying couldn't speak, but Sha-En smiled at this moment. At the absolute speed, time seemed to slow down, leaving only the leisurely movements of Kizaru's Blood Shadow. Boom! When everyone reacted, Drought was kicked away by Zhuiying. Smash hard into the rocks on the edge. The gravel fell, the huge rocky mountain cracked, and there was a big hole in the middle, and dust was everywhere. Drought suffered this blow before being knocked down directly, and a roar of unwillingness came out. As a result, the next second, Kizaru Zhuiying crossed his hands, pinched his fingers lightly, and a red halo shone. 8-foot Magatama. The dense red light clusters were like rain, with ferocious impact like bullets and terrifying power of light energy explosions. All falling towards the drought. Suddenly, there was a continuous roar, and everyone watching was shocked. Under the repeated bombings, Drought was unable to withstand these attacks even in his human animal form. Red light spots were scattered all over his body, and they exploded from time to time, causing him to vomit blood. Under the explosion and vibration, a gap was opened in the Rocky Mountains surrounding Dressrosa Island, looking straight into the sea. It has Kizaru's abilities. It was so amazing that it made Doflamingo and the others feel numb. Apparently, even Kizaru's sparkling fruit ability was replicated. That flashing red light, that invisible movement. Extremely scary. Even Momoshiki was shocked and stared blankly at the tragic situation exposed by the drought. She knew that Blood Shadow could reproduce 100% of his strength, Haki's physical skills and swordsmanship, all of them, but she didn't expect that his unique abilities could also be reproduced. In fact, if you think about it carefully, the bloodline factors in the blood can produce ability fruits, and Sha-En's ability to recreate Blood Shadows is not surprising. It has to be said that the Admiral level of strength is really intimidating. Doflamingo, who has always been arrogant, did not even dare to fart. Everyone was shocked again and broke out in cold sweat. A Blood Shadow with Admiral level strength and abilities. I can't afford to mess with him. So fierce. The terrain was blown open, and looking at the tragic situation of the drought, an 8-foot Magatama came down. In the human and animal form, the body was covered in blood, and he couldn't stand up for a long time. Didn't you just want to teach me a lesson? Now, I also want to teach you Doflamingo a lesson. Sha-En glanced at the drought side, smiled slightly, and focused on Doflamingo. Don't you mean to teach yourself a lesson? I am not the one who suffers the consequences. How can I still be timid after reviving my life? No, Momoshiki and other Marines also understand. The Admiral-class combat power is top-notch. It was a joke to worry about Doflamingo launching an attack through the world government. Now it is not a question of whether they dare to take action to keep Marine, but a question of whether Sha-En is willing to leave. You want to teach me a lesson? When Doflamingo heard this, he was startled for a moment, and then his face became extremely ugly. A little brat actually said such things to himself. That's right, my brother's blood shadow doesn't need to take action to teach you a lesson. Sha-an looked disdainfully and returned Doflamingo's previous attitude. Doflamingo laughed angrily, with a ferocious expression on his face as he laughed out loud. Ah, 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 ah. You should stop talking big words in moderation. Child. Momoshiki and the marine soldiers couldn't help but look at the child in surprise when they heard Sha-an's words. Then he whispered in Sha-an's ear, Ahem, brother Sha-an, are you too crazy? Don't be so naughty. Too crazy. Although he is still very strong. But using Drought, T-Dolphins, and my own shadow to fight against Doflamingo's gang and Drought is not realistic, right? He almost lost just now, and the T-Dolphin blood shadow was even beaten and disappeared. How is it possible to continue playing and beat the opponent's lineup? Calm down, Sha-an replied. Immediately, he gave an order. Blood shadow, beat them hard. This lesson is given today. Immediately, Momoshiki blood shadow and Drought blood shadow took action directly. The blood shadow, exactly like Drought, went straight towards Drought, which was bombarded by the 8-foot Chong Magatama, and even transformed into the human animal form of a mammoth during the sprint. The blood shadow has been exposed, there is nothing to pretend, just increase the strength. Come on, you fake. Drought was irritated and aggrieved by the Kizaru blood shadow, and now he saw the blood shadow rushing towards him, roaring angrily. Two huge human-animal elephant bodies collided suddenly. Under the impact of power, dust flew into the air. At the same time, the blood shadow of Momoshiki surprised Doflamingo and the others, actually breaking into their lineup in a single form. Destroy it. That brat actually looks down on the Don Quixote family so much. Doflamingo didn't hesitate when he saw this, and the whole group took action to deal with the blood shadow. As soon as they faced each other, Torbal, Diamante, Raoji, Senor and others each used powerful offensives, covering the body of Momoshiki's blood shadow and falling down. Doflamingo originally thought that blood shadow would use some big move, or a move that would increase his power, but blood shadow completely gave up on defense. Ignoring the coming attack, he struck directly at Raoji, who was in close combat with his sword. It's dying. Raoji was shocked. Although the blood shadow didn't look like a real person, it was useless to be broken into pieces. In a hurry, he didn't care how the blood shadow would be beaten by subsequent attacks, so he quickly stopped. But Zhuiying persevered, caught one of them, tried his best to exchange injuries for injuries, and severely knocked away Raoji, who had just stopped and couldn't dodge. Raoji, who flew upside down in the air and spit out a mouthful of blood, was stunned. But similarly, other people's attacks fell on the blood shadow. Although it did not directly explode, it was still blasted into the ground. Are you planning to let your blood shadow die? Doflamingo didn't know what Sha-an was thinking, and was confused for a moment. Seeing Raoji fly out, he immediately took action. The awakened string fruit ability raised several white shield lines and blasted towards Momoshiki's blood shadow in the pit. As a result, at this time, the blood shadow rushed out of the pit, ignored Doflamingo's attack, and rushed towards the next target. Don't try to escape my attack. Doflamingo snorted and moved his fingers irregularly. The white line of his shield was rendered with a black and purple hockey special effect, and he chased down the blood shadow's back. At this time, Torebel was trembling a little, and he felt the blood shadow locking on him. Sure enough, Momoshiki blood shadow turned a deaf ear to Doflamingo's attack. The long sword wrapped around Hockey, and the high speed of the sword made Torebel unable to avoid it in the crowd. Bang! Mahabase, Diamante and others were rushed away by the blood shadow, and the sword accurately penetrated into Torbel's chest. 4.Y. The corner of Torebel's mouth immediately bled, the severe pain made him sweat profusely, and his lips trembled. The next moment, Momoshiki's blood shadow was also hit into the back by the attack from Doflamingo's pursuit. It can be seen that the blood flowed out differently from ordinary people. Blood shadow is not life, but it is also a powerful combat power. What on earth is he going to do? With this fighting method, is he going to sacrifice the blood shadow? The cadres of the Don Quixote family were more or less beaten. This is completely a life-for-life style of play. Sha-an, seeing that Torebel was brought down, Doflamingo was even more angry, grinning angrily and twisting his face. In his mind, these cadres have a family relationship, especially Torebel. As a result, he was seriously injured by the blood shadow. And the blood shadow must be controlled by Sha-En. Doflamingo was completely angry. Admiral's blood shadow guardian couldn't do anything to Sha-En, but this Momoshiki blood shadow, he was determined to destroy. However, the blood shadow of Momoshiki, who was also injured, did not stop, turning around and slashing at the shocked Mahabasi. Attacks on others are completely ignored. Die to me. 1,000 arrows piercing the heart feather strike line. In the anger of Doflamingo, who was separated by some distance, he decisively used the awakening move. Rising from the ground are thousands of tangled, armed colored threads enveloping Momoshiki blood shadow in the shape of flamingo wings. Before it could attack Mahabas, these highly condensed threads of haki pierced the unsuspecting blood shadow's body and stopped its movements. Young master. Mahabas was taken aback, but fortunately Doflamingo's move was in time, otherwise he really couldn't dodge it with the strength of Momoshiki's blood shadow. And the blood in front of him was already killed by Doflamingo on the spot. Countless, highly condensed armed threads passed through the blood shadow's body to the other side, and the blood gushed out, and Momoshiki's blood shadow quickly dried up, and then turned into a pool of bloodline. Momoshiki's eyes changed, and he looked at Sha-En anxiously, and found that Sha-En's expression was still calm. Hey, blood shadow is ruined. Is this kid still so calm? Seeing the blood shadow disappear, Doflamingo snorted bitterly, and the cadres also breathed a sigh of relief. This kind of blood shadow, especially with such a strong strength, is really not something they can easily block. Before they could turn their heads to face Sha-En, they saw the bloodline on the ground. It was moving strangely. That blood is moving again. In just a few seconds, a human form recondensed in full view. Momoshiki blood shadow, resurrected. No way. What the hell? It can be resurrected without injury. The breath hasn't declined a bit. What kind of weird ability is this? The cadres of the Don Quixote family and Doflamingo were all dumbfounded. They swallowed involuntarily, and their foreheads were sweating. The blood shadow, who can be revived strangely, fights to trade injuries for injuries. How can they deal with it? Even Momoshiki stood in front of Sha-En, with the same expression as the other marine fighters, with a shocked expression on his face. What's going on? Blood shadow is more than just able to fight. Sha-En smiled, folded her arms and watched the battle leisurely. At the same time, the blood shadow of Momoshiki below also made another move. Can you still be resurrected? Doflamingo met Momoshiki's blood shadow with crazy energy and fought fiercely again. But the battle that followed frightened the entire Don Quixote family. The roaring sound is constant, and the sword energy is everywhere. Momoshiki blood shadow's life-for-life style of play throughout is so ferocious that it makes no sense. People like Dellinger and Buffalo were not even qualified to participate in close combat. They were seriously injured by Momoshiki's sharp sword energy and did nothing. At the same time, Diamante and Laob fought fiercely, and even Pika, who was guarding the palace, couldn't gain an advantage in front of the blood shadow of Momoshiki, who had completely given up defense. The siege had become a complete joke at this point. But at the same time, while many cadres of the Don Quixote family were severely injured, Momoshiki's blood shadow could not remain intact. The angry Doflamingo let go of his hands and feet and used the power of the awakening fruit. He repeatedly used 1,000 arrows to pierce the heart, shield white thread and other moves to severely damage the blood shadow and explode it. But when the blood shadow recovered again and again, resurrected after death, resurrected, died again, and resurrected again, in an endless cycle, Doflamingo felt a palpitation in his heart. Dover. Several cadres in Toripal and Seloni were seriously injured and frightened after several rounds. They have no way to deal with such a terrifying blood shadow. Momoshiki blood shadow is a candidate admiral. Even with Doflamingo's powerful awakening strength, it is impossible to kill him in one fell swoop. If this continues for a few more rounds of resurrection, everyone will be completely killed by its life-for-life strategy. How could this be? How could it be resurrected indefinitely? Doflamingo originally thought that blood shadow could not be resurrected indefinitely, but it took so long. His physical strength was huge, but Momoshiki's shadow was still full and energetic after his resurrection. Doflamingo felt a little frightened inside after doing this so many times in a row, and his expression became throbbing. Even on the other side. The same goes for the showdown between Jack the Drow and Drought blood shadow. Jack has brute strength and becomes even more fierce even when he is injured, but his opponent is Blood Shadow, who has the same strength. Still maintaining a perfect state, only the Blood Shadow with fighting consciousness completely suppressed the drought himself. With the same strength and the same skill in the duel, the fight was not that reckless. There was a loud bang. The two huge figures collided with each other, their hands were touching each other, their trunks were wrestling with each other, and the ground beneath their feet was cracking. It can be seen that the emotionless Blood Shadow ignored some injuries at this moment and pushed the drought back again and again. No, did I lose to myself? It must be because I was injured first. It must be. I couldn't bear the drought, I was confused, even a little frightened. Crazy people are afraid of losing their lives, and people who are desperate for their lives are afraid of cheating. This Blood Shadow is a cheat. He has no emotions and will only follow Sha-En's orders. If he says to defeat the drought at all costs, Blood Shadow will execute it without hesitation. Momoshiki and Marine fighters were also shocked. No one thought that under the overall strength gap, Momoshiki Blood Shadow and Drought Blood Shadow would forcibly break the balance of victory. At this time, Doflamingo killed him with one hand, and with multiple blows, he once again broke the armor of the unprepared Momoshiki Blood Shadow, completely destroying it. Blood splattered everywhere, and Doflamingo completely dispersed the blood left behind by the Blood Shadow, using the assimilation of string fruit to divide it into thousands of parts. Without blood, let's see how you survive. Doflamingo still has his wits about him and is not overwhelmed. These threads are stained with blood, and they extend infinitely to send it into the surrounding seawater to dilute it, or to have it destroyed by firepower from Gladius and others. The idea was right, but he still underestimated the sharpness of Blood Shadow. Even if the pool of blood is completely evaporated, it can't stop the resurrection of the Blood Shadow. Because it is a product of the system. The scattered blood disappeared out of thin air, and then appeared in front of Gladius out of thin air. The squirming blood mass quickly turned into a human form, and without even picking up the long sword, one hand was wrapped around armament hockey, and it pierced Gladius' chest neatly. Ancient Gladius. This time, almost most of the Don Quixote family was seriously injured by the Blood Shadow of Momoshiki. Doflamingo was palpitating, his mouth was open, and there seemed to be something choked in his throat. Gladius still couldn't die, and avoided the heart position with a small evasion range, but was also powerless and limp. Momoshiki's Blood Shadow turned around and picked up the long sword, about to give him a fatal blow. Only then did Doflamingo come to his senses. Returning to his senses in horror, he shouted at Sha-En, who was watching indifferently on the warship, "Stop! Stop!" Sha-En smiled slightly and ignored Doflamingo's confession. "If you want to play, you can play, but if you can't beat it, you can stop. Anyway, these guys are not good people, and it's okay to kill a few of them. Stop it, Sha-En." Doflamingo's pupils were trembling, and he shouted again. Seeing Sha-En's indifferent appearance, he said in desperation, "If I don't stop, I will reveal the secret of the Celestial Dragon's national treasure to the public." No way. Doflamingo had no choice but to draw out his whole cards, and he couldn't just watch his men get killed. "Sorry, didn't hear clearly." Sha-En sneered, thinking that the secret of the Celestial Dragon's national treasure has nothing to do with me. Just about to let the Blood Shadow kill a few more. "Wait, brother Sha-En." Momoshiki tensed up when he heard the words, and hurried forward to stop Sha-En. "It's a big deal. Although I don't know what the secret of celestial dragons involves, it must be something that can shake the world. As Marines, we can't let this happen." Talking quickly, Momoshiki said what he thought, not to mention that Marine is a subordinate of celestial dragons. Neither emotion nor reason can make Doflamingo jump over the wall, and today's goal has been achieved. Sha-En thought for a while, then nodded. "Okay, this lesson is almost over." After saying this, the Blood Shadow of Momoshiki stopped the killing intent in his hand, turned around and returned to the warship. On the other side, the Blood Shadow who was pressing down on the drought deity also stopped moving, and after a few jumps, he moved away, and disappeared on the warship together with the Blood Shadow of Momoshiki. Most of Toripal and Cernio, who were injured and fell to the ground, breathed a sigh of relief, and their frightened mood became relaxed. Fortunately, their marine still has scruples. That's it for today, Doflamingo. Next time remember not to talk nonsense in front of me, or my brother won't let you go. Sha-en patted the blood shadow of Kizaru beside him, and mocked. Afterwards, the warship that had already sailed set sail, and Momoshiki took a deep look at Doflamingo. Leave leisurely. And Doflamingo was angry and annoyed, his chest heaved and became bigger, and finally he gritted his teeth and said nothing. Today for the Don Quixote family, what a humiliation. With angry and annoyed eyes, the warship gradually moved away. The appearance of that child Sha-en seemed to be in front of Doflamingo's eyes, making him grit his teeth. At this moment, amidst the chaos, half of his body was covered by the drought. He breathed a sigh of relief, his eyes were red and he roared, chasing them. This reckless man actually wants to start his own pirate ship to chase after him. Doflamingo turned around, frowning, and stopped him. Stop chasing. Admiral's blood shadow is hard to deal with. Only absolute strength can make drought calm down, and he will be beaten if he catches up. If I don't chase you, where will I save my face? Joker. Drought breathed out, holding the weapon tightly in both hands. Now the factory has been destroyed. It will take some time to rebuild. You send the fruits of the transaction back first. Doflamingo glanced at him, and then got to the point. Sure enough, when it comes to man-made devil fruit, the drought just gave up, and the redness of the eyes has subsided a lot, but in retrospect, I am annoyed and frightened. The blood shadow experienced today is really too weird. That Sha-en's ability is very extraordinary. I have never seen such an unrestricted, pervert fruit ability. If it's correct, the blood shadow he created can replicate 100% of the main body's strength. Even his own ability. Doflamingo calmed down and thought of many unbelievable facts. A blood shadow that can reproduce 100% strength. Let alone 1 is outrageous enough. Hearing the news of the drought, he fell silent. He was not stupid, so he could naturally think of the key point. For example, just now, Kizaru didn't come personally, but Sha-en controls a Kizaru blood shadow with sparkling fruit ability. After you go back, tell Governor Kaido about this matter. Now Marine's Sha-en, Momoshiki, we can't deal with it. Only he can solve it. Doflamingo explained the drought again, in case he didn't know what to say. When the people in Torrebel heard the arrangement, they thought that the young master was still calm, and only the 4 emperors came forward for such an outrageous guy. Drought nodded, and then greeted his subordinates in the distance to prepare to return. Not long after, Doflamingo sat silently on the cargo box after sending the drought away from the underground black market port. The seriously injured subordinates have all gone back to heal their wounds, and only he is left sitting in a state of confusion. Today was a farce. The factory was destroyed, people were injured, the loss was huge, and Sha-en was humiliated, which was a great shame for Brother Ming. He will definitely settle this account. Then, Doflamingo, who figured things out, pulled out the phone bug. After connecting, he said directly, Ghost Bamboo, check a person from Naval Headquarters, Kizaru's younger brother, Sha-en. Kizaru's younger brother, Ghost Bamboo, also known as Marine Vice Admiral Vigor, was very surprised when he heard the words. He hadn't heard that Kizaru had a younger brother at the moment. A 7 or 8-year-old brat. Looking at his military rank, he is a rookie rear admiral. He has the ability of blood shadow fruit, and he uses blood to create a blood shadow with 100% strength. Doflamingo gnashes his teeth a little bit at that. A blood shadow with 100% strength. Hearing the ability of this blood shadow fruit, Vigor was still shocked. Nima, there is such an outrageous ability in the world. If Admiral is reproduced, wouldn't it have the strength of Admiral? As everyone knows, Sha-en has already demonstrated the power of Kizaru's blood shadow. That's right, this person is very important. I want to know everything about him. Remember, don't treat him like a child. Doflamingo thought very clearly. He and Momoshiki can control the blood shadow to fight the cadres and the drought while joking with Momoshiki, and blow up the factory. Is such a guy an ordinary child? The subsequent battles were even more calm, as if they didn't have the playfulness of children, and even taught them a lesson, which was very decisive. I understand, I will let you know as soon as the investigation is clear. Vigor immediately reassured, and after he finished speaking, he hung up the phone, frowning tightly. It seems that something big has happened with the young master, and Kizaru's younger brother is involved. But he didn't ask curiously in person, because he would know about it naturally, and now he is even more curious about the child Sha-en with the blood shadow. However, at this time, Sha-en, who was returning from the warship, was lying comfortably on a chair, lazily, and the surrounding marine soldiers looked at him with admiration. I am amazed in my heart that it is Kizaru Admiral's younger brother who has done such a great thing at a young age. As for Momoshige, he is reporting to Naval Headquarters in the cabin room at this time. It's good to have evacuated smoothly. Sengoku's relieved voice came from the phone bug. The voices of the admirals can be faintly heard. Akainu, Sha-en is indeed a malleable talent, even if he destroys the factory, he can evacuate smoothly. Returning Aokiji. Pelusalino, is this really your brother? He's quite capable, much more reliable than you. Kizaru. Kuzan, what did you say? Momoshige also laughed when he heard their voices of relief. It is this process that is very scary. Originally I wanted to talk about it in detail later, but Momoshige thought about it and continued. Sha-en is very talented, and he has created 4 blood shadows in this mission. 4 already made. Sengoku was taken aback after hearing this, surprised in his heart. Kizaru, Akainu and others were also surprised. Everyone remembers that Sha-en said before that there were 3 blood shadows, and it took only a few days to create 1 more. It seems that the little devil has left a hand. Sengoku was happy instead and said with a smile. More than that, I don't know whether it is a breakthrough in the development ability or retention. But the fruit of the blood shadow is far beyond our imagination. In this operation, we had a conflict with Doflamingo. During the fight, my blood shadow will be resurrected infinitely, defeating the Don Quixote family. Momoshige still couldn't help but speak out on the phone bug. Immediately, the marine executives on the opposite side were all taken aback. Infinite resurrection. What's going on here? So, Momoshige told the whole story for more than 10 minutes, very detailed. The marine executives on the opposite side were immediately shocked. Sha-en can have 4 blood shadows, and even created Kizaru's blood shadow. In the conflict, the blood shadow of Momoshige with infinite resurrection defeated the Doflamingo group. This kid, his abilities are too heaven-defying. Everyone was shocked, especially Aokiji, who just knew about it not long ago, was very shocked, his mouth opened wide and his pupils trembled. Sengoku even said bluntly, Pelusalino, your brother will definitely be the absolute support of Marine in the future. This kid really brought too many surprises to Marine. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.